Hey everyone, and welcome back to Game Explains Game Club, where we play through the same game week by week alongside all of you. And this time we're covering Chapter 6 and 7 of Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door, and I think we're gonna have some thoughts about this. Now, real quick, if you back us on Patreon at the Game Club VIP level being $5 or higher, you get access to all kinds of special benefits, including early access to the final edited episode, or if that's not quick enough, you can even watch us do these live, including the ability to interact with us. You also get the ability to vote on what game we play next, plus a few other perks. Check it out, there's a link in the description below, and it's a great way to support us. Otherwise, let's get right into Chapter 6 in Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. And by that, I of course mean the intermission stuff that happens before every chapter, starting off with Princess Peach's segment aboard Crump's base, wherever we are. We actually might find out. Derek, do you want to give us a rundown of what happens during the segment?
Sure thing. So it begins with Tech calling in Peach, and he actually has a much more dangerous request of Peach this time around, where he needs her to sneak into Grodus's office in order to obtain a data disk. Since it's not on the network, he can't look at their full plans, and this might have something to do with what they really intend to do with everything. So in order to get in there, he can't disguise herself as one of the X-Nauts, so we need to make an invisibility potion. So we have a nice little mini game where we got to mix together some potions. Yeah. And end up and turn invisible, which doesn't turn clothes invisible, so it's time for Peach to get naked again.
Yep, there it is.
I've totally forgotten about this.
Oh, I
did
not.
too.
I was like, this is not. I was like, this is. I'm thinking the shower stuff. That's tame. But anyway, she makes her way into Grodus's office, grabs the data, and Tech has to analyze it. He doesn't know exactly what yet. It's going to take a bit of time. But it does seem to be like the two are definitely bonding. Peach feels a lot closer to Tech than she was at the beginning, not as suspicious and whatnot, even though what she had to do this time. So yeah, that's the Peach segment.
Right.
That was something else. I can't believe, again, I mean, this goes further than even anything else so far in this game, in the sense that I can't believe they got away with it. I mean, you're playing as a nude Peach.
Right. It's weird. It's even more explicit nudity than the shower scenes were.
Right.
Especially because Tech literally asks you, I must ask you to take off your dress, however. It's like, what? How did they get this in here? And then Peach, agrees. So I wondered, like, does Tech have, like, I hope he doesn't have, like, thermal vision or something.
Oh, God.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to say that. He is a perfect computer, so let's hope he's a perfect gentleman.
It is so interesting where, like, in any other context, like, Tech would come across as an extremely creepy protagonist, but... not protagonist, but, like, character. But the way they present it in such a way that it doesn't really come across that way, unless you look below surface level, you know what I mean?
Right.
Where you can analyze, where you can kind of, like, go deeper in depth onto it, but yeah. The fact that
I will, yeah.
Go ahead.
Like, I don't think Tech necessarily has that. Like, I will say, as edgy as it is, they don't go out of their way to make Tech seem creepy about it. And I get the sense that as an AI, as a computer, he doesn't, he's still figuring out the concept of love and attraction. I don't even get the sense that it is a sexual thing for Tech. No. It's just love. It's infatuation, but it's not anything creepy.
You say that, though, in what might be, as I tweeted last night, the horniest Mario game, given all
that is absolutely true.
Some of the dialogue in this game
absolutely
is incredible. There's some in this chapter, even. But anyways, so what did you guys think of the actual gameplay portion where you're playing as Peach, you can for some reason see her shadow on the ground, even though she's totally invisible, which you
need to know how to control.
Exactly, I know, but it doesn't make sense contextually, Derek. Didn't explain that one. And then it's kind of interesting how the whole chapter, in a way, is about transparency, where you're transparent as Peach and you're going into what's his name? Grodus's office to find out what he's up to. And you do that by accessing his data disks. And I love, one little touch, by the way, is when you put the data disk into the computer, the startup sequence is the Famicom disk system.
Yep. That's in my notes.
So great.
It's such a cool thing.
I had that in my notes.
So good.
Yeah,
so
you
good.
can even see they kind of have some of the letters, and then you see like a little red block, which is obviously supposed to be Mario running by. I really liked that. But I want to go back for a second. that puzzle with the potions was BS, and not because it was a hard puzzle, but because how long is 30 seconds really?
I will say I had no issue arranging the potions. That was not the problem. But when it came to the time, I did it on my own at first. Like I was like, all right, let's see if I can actually do this. No, my potion got screwed up. I ended up with a supersized Peach, which the effects did last for a little while.
Oh man!
And after a little bit, she shrinks back to her normal size.
I'm too good. I got my first try. I'm disappointed. I wish I'd seen that stuff.
I did too, actually. And so I not only did I get my first try, I decided to reset and just see if I could screw with the game and see what happens if you do. I didn't know you could supersize Peach. I only got her to shrink. So I was going to say that I tried everything from like messing up the potion ingredients to not having any potion, and she still drinks it as though there is a potion, even if you don't have one. But the only thing I got was that she shrinks. I never saw her get supersized.
So how many tries did you take, Steve, in the end to get it?
It took me 3 tries, and ironically, I got her to supersize once, and I got her to shrink once. And
there you go.
And I knew my issue was just that somehow I was not keeping time with what the GameCube considered 30 seconds. And so I pulled up a stopwatch and just watched that and then hit the
That's
button.
what I did my second try. I was like, I don't have time for this. Stopwatch is coming out. Let's do this.
I mean, like, it doesn't seem that bad at first. Like, those 30 seconds add up pretty quick, you know? Yeah, so for me, it was kind of funny. Like, I actually counted them out, and I started counting, but then as I was going through, I'm like, this feels like it's taking me way too long. So I started speeding it up, but then mentally, I'm like, I'm going too fast now, so I gotta slow it down. Somehow it worked. I don't know how. So I wonder what the range is. Like, I wonder how narrow that range is on that 30-second window.
It feels like it's a 1 second range.
Yeah.
That's brutal if it's that tight. And this game actually reminded me quite a bit. It's not identical, but it reminds me a fair amount of the cooking or baking game from Paper Mario 64, where during the process of, again, like, it's trying to escape as Peach or exploring, you'd make a cake where you combine ingredients, and then you had to put into, an oven for the same amount of time, even, perhaps. I think it's pretty much the exact same thing. Wait 30 seconds. So that's kind of like a fun little callback if you play the first one. But the actual puzzle mechanics are a bit different. Did you guys have any trouble with anything up to the 30-second point?
Nope.
Okay.
Nah.
I mean, there's notes all over the room that tell you exactly what you should do.
And you know what, for as simple as it is, I actually kind of like that. Like, the puzzle is super simple, but I do like you still have to, like, you still have to work it out yourself, you know? It's not complicated, but it was kind of fun. It almost feels like you're kind of, putting the stuff together yourself as you're trying to figure it out. If I were a kid, I'm sure I'd be extremely happy with my level of intelligence. I'm like, oh, I'm so smart figuring out this super simple puzzle. I still am a little bit. Not gonna lie. All right. So what happens after she finds after she accesses the computer? She just has the information.
She accesses the computer. You automatically return to tech, and he's like, "I'm going to need time to analyze this. You can send a message and return to the room."
Okay.
So, and then she, sends off the email and all that. So, a little bit more active with what we can do with Peach this time around.
What's funny is in this one, you don't even play as Peach to get into Tech's room. She just starts walking in there. Like, even the game's like, yeah, we're not gonna waste your time anymore with that. Let's just get this going. So, all right. Shall we move on to the Bowser segment then?
Yeah.
All right.
It's honestly really simple. It's Bowser comes to Twilight Town looking for the Crystal Star. He happens to run into Crump, who is looking for the another Super Bomb from Bedlam. And they get into a fight where we call in tons of X-Nauts and we get tons of Koopa Troops. And in the meantime, in the middle of it, Crump tosses the Super Bomb at him. It's a dud until Bowser's like, what's that? Sets it on fire, blows everybody up, and that's it.
There's your payoff, Steve. You were wondering about it. There you go.
Exactly.
Are you not entertained?
I was super happy to see the broken Super Bomb came back into play, and Bowser ended up nuking himself and Crump. Crump.
Yeah. I know these names are tricky for me.
Yeah.
Like
I was
Andre
thinking
was saying
Krampus.
Crump when it was Grotus, and
yeah. So it was throwing me off, but yeah, I liked seeing just a brief interaction with them, especially because at this point I was like, okay, like the narrative with Mario is starting to pick up speed, so I kind of just want to get back to that quickly. But yeah, it was not my favorite Bowser moment. I think he's had some of the best written moments in the game so far, but this one at least was mercifully brief.
You're ignoring one part though, or maybe you disagree with me, but I did have one amazing line as Pro Toman points out, and I took a note on it too, saying, I love how Bowser straight up calls Cammy Haggy.
Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah.
But I still think it doesn't hold a candle to like when you get to control him in like the 2D platforming areas.
I agree, especially because there's one thing that it's a minor nitpick, but it does bug me, and that's the fact that they literally delete the right side of town. You can't, or the entranceway into it. You can't walk farther. Which I don't understand, because, I mean, I know why, but it wouldn't have been that much more work to let you go over there and just use a gatekeeper as a way of preventing you from going farther, you know? Or even, actually, even if you could, the log or the fallen tree would have stopped you anyway. So yeah, I wish it's just a little off-putting that you can't just go a little bit farther and fully explore the town and just kind of make it, like, try to make it so you forget it even exists.
Yeah. Snowman actually mentioned that you can actually interact with the doors, which I didn't do.
Oh,
I didn't do that either.
I tried, but what happens?
I don't know.
I talked to every NPC, of course,
I did too.
but I didn't interact with the doors. But I do love how, like, even though they chumpetize Bowser compared to Mario, I do like how he's so brash and just takes on the X-Nauts like Crump head on. There's no, like, they don't go out of their way to make Bowser seem weak compared to the X-Nauts, right? Like, at first it seems like Crump's like, oh man, he's got all of his X-Nauts with him, and what's Bowser gonna do? Right. He's like, screw this, I got my Koopa army. Let's go, man. Like, I don't care. And
I'm sorry, that Koopa army is much more impressive.
Yeah, well, it's more diverse, at least, than the entire horde of Crumps, which are all identical.
Exactly.
And then, I don't know if anyone else had this, but it did remind me a little bit of Mario RPG, of which, Paper Mario is based on originally, where the start of that game has Bowser regrouping with his Koopa troops before he sends them off into the world. So it just reminded me a little bit, given the scale of everything. Far more impressive now, 1,000 Year Door. But that was a fun thing we've seen, where you see these two competing armies going against each other. The only thing I don't understand is what exactly Bowser's game plan was with the Super Bomb or whatever it is, because he literally, like, ignites it himself, then he's surprised that it blows up. Like, what?
See, well, the way I read it was that he was trying to burn up Crump.
Oh, was that what he was
didn't
going
realize
for?
The Super Bomb was between them, maybe. Like, at least that's how it kind of seemed to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still a dumb move on Bowser's part.
Bowser also, he's always meant to, he's always had a penchant for acting before he thinks. So that's kind of how I read it. He just kind of pushes forward without really thinking about the consequences of what he does. Mm-hmm. And so, there were major consequences this time.
Mm-hmm.
So Jacob Tucker says he can interact with some of the bushes where Bowser makes another RPG joke. I don't think I'd try that either. I thought it was being pretty exhaustive, but
I didn't bother because, I mean, Bowser can't get items, so who cares?
Right?
Spoilers, Derek. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we're only 3/4 of the way through the game.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I want to call out something Azran127 said earlier when we were talking about the invisibility potion minigame. He says, or they say, tech is just addressing the issue with the invisibility potion.
Oh,
it started off right.
Yeah.
Begin to think that he's a AI programmed by Andre.
Yeah.
I mean, Azran also says that Bowser's just got a short fuse, which also is very fitting, given.
And another one is, I'd say I got the timing down on the second try.
Oh,
he's on fire.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
I'm so glad we have Azran here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the Rogueport portion of the chapter. Derek, what happens here?
Not a whole lot. Well, actually, kind of a little bit here and there. First thing I did, of course, we were talking to Luigi, but we'll get into the specifics of Luigi as we talk about this.
Oh, also, real quick, we actually come back from Keyhole Key, right? Too.
We come back from Keyhole Key, where you learn that a couple of the people are staying behind, including Frankie and Francesca, which is kind of important because you find out you need to ride the XS Express to Poshley Heights. And Frankly is really excited about this because there's nothing in between. There's no hazardous things that you have to do. There's no great quest you have to do. It's just take this train to Poshley Heights. Unfortunately, it's a really expensive train, so you need to actually get a ticket for it. And he suggests talking to Don Pianta. You go to talk to Don Pianta, and he is sick in bed because he misses his daughter so much. And so you track them down by going back to Keyhole Key, and you find them in the woods where turns out Francesca lost her ring. And Frankie is much more concerned about the boss than the ring. It's like, we'll just search for it later. But she's like, no, you can't do that. This is important. That's our representative of our love. And he tries to apologize. And instead, you have to manually put 100 I love yous to her. Say it. Just hit the A button 100 times. And poor Frankie.
Poor
But,
us.
Yeah, poor us.
Right.
But the two come back. Frankie is put in as the new boss, and the great thing about the great payoff to this is that Francesca drops all the pet names. It's like, no, we're boss now. I'm co-boss.
Yeah,
we're doing this.
Yeah, you can
And-
call
Call
me
me
this
Mr.
boss. Yeah.
this boss. And as a reward, you get the ticket to the XS Express. But on the way out, Beldam actually overhears about Poshley Heights, so they're on the way to take it as well. So now it's kind of a race against them, and then basically you go to get on the train.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
all.
So not a whole lot. Well, actually, you covered a fair amout there. One of my favorite parts about this is if you deny helping the boss, or if you deny to his stooges, I guess. They basically say something along the lines of, "It would be real sad to see something real bad happen to you guys. Real sad." It's like, jeez.
Yeah. Because they straight up threaten you if you
Yeah,
say no.
exactly.
I love that. Yeah. How did you guys feel about going back to Keel Hall Key right after we had an entire chapter there?
It's
Because I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
and
this
you
is-
have to explore again to find the ring.
it's annoying.
This is the portion of the game for me that respects your time as the player the least.
Right.
Like there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown at you that's like, hey, go back to this place you were at. Hey, you can also go back here. Like you're getting emails like, hey, there's something over here that you, for instance, Ash brought it up a couple episodes ago, or a couple discussions ago. I don't really know. But we were talking about the atomic boo. And in this chapter, you get an email like, "Hey, did you know there's a big boo over in Creepy Steeple you can go fight?" And then the fortune teller in Rogueport is also like, "Hey, if you go to where you fought the dragon, there's an item there that you can get that'll help me upgrade your partners." And I'm like, "Damn, I gotta go everywhere I've been just to make sure I'm ready to get on this stupid train."
Did you get that? Did you go back?
Oh,
to
I
it?
did. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
whenever a
so
game.
nice.
Yeah, whenever Nintendo foreshadows something like that for you, so obviously that's their way of saying like you're probably going to have a hard time if you don't do this thing. So I spent a lot more time in Rogueport probably in this intermission than I have in others doing things that didn't directly move the story forward.
Right.
Right. Unfortunately, there's a new trouble that becomes available during this segment that takes you not only back to Keel Hall Key, but you have to meet up with a toad deep inside Pirate's Grotto.
I started that one and gave up on it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with
It's
this.
so annoying.
Where-
So I did go back and do it, but
Where is
yeah.
it? Where is the toad?
It's in the cargo room.
Yeah, the cargo
Oh
room.
my god, really?
Yeah. He even says like, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. I know this is a long way to come out. Thanks for coming out." Like they even admit that it's kind of a pain to get there.
Fortunately, all you need to do, like, once you find him, that's it for the trouble. You don't have to go anywhere else. That is the one
Right.
highlight of that. But
And it is a really fun story that plays out. Like it has to do with Goombella, and it's actually kind of cute. But it is getting there is pretty annoying for sure.
Yeah, I was already annoyed at the backtracking in Keyhole Key as it was before. So finding out we had to go back and potentially again with this trouble quest now, it's such a tedious exercise. And then add on top of this the whole castle thing that I also did. And I actually just looked up where it was. I'm like, I started going through every room, blowing on every wall. I'm like, I cannot deal with this.
Oh.
So I looked it up. I'm like, okay, it's in the boss room. That helps a lot. And of course, I forgot the exact sequence to get there, so I went up every staircase before the one I needed to. So yeah, backtracking is definitely this game's weakest spot, I'd say. And this is where it's starting to kick in. It's like, this is really starting to do great at points.
It gets worse.
No.
Did you guys do? Oh, go ahead, Derek.
Oh no, go ahead.
Did you guys do Eve's Trouble in Twilight Town?
Yes.
Nope.
It's
haven't yet.
surprisingly real. I don't
Ooh.
want to. I know we don't have too many episodes to go left, so I hesitate to spoil it. But it's surprisingly hard. Not surprisingly, because of a Bobbery story and other stuff. But it's really real, and it's kind of a depressing side quest, to be honest.
Okay, well, keep that note in memory because we have time to do it before we record chapter 7. So I'll make sure to do it before then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. There's this is probably the time to probably start telling each other about certain things that have you done this yet?
we
Have
should
you
start-
done this yet? To try to help you out. So I guess along those lines, have you done the mystery client yet, Steve, for the Troubles? Have you bothered with the Troubles at all?
I haven't bothered with the Troubles at all.
All right. I know, Andre, based on the one you were talking about, you have done that mystery trouble.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So should we mention
Should we
it?
talk about it? Just because I don't think it's not that huge.
It's not big of a deal, but yeah, and it might encourage Steve to do it.
Yeah.
Let's
If you
go
do
for
it,
it.
Cool, okay.
it should be that one. Like,
Yeah,
do that
so
trouble.
so Steve, there's a trouble that's out there that just all question marks, and if you do it, you actually meet up with Miss Mouse, and
Oh, wow.
once you do her trouble, she'll actually join your party. There's an extra party member that you can get.
I love that.
Oh, wow, that
you
is
can
cool.
completely miss if you don't.
Okay,
do all
I'll
the troubles.
have to do that.
Yeah.
Does she have a power that's any good? Like, is she?
Her base ability ignores defense.
Oh, what the hell!
And she
All
can
right.
steal
Right.
items from opponents if they have an
Yeah.
item.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Very
So,
useful.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
She
So
also
one
her
thing-
ability out in the open is that she can detect if treasures in a room.
interesting. So one thing I did, because I had so much difficulty with Cortez, was I decided to look up a list of badges and see if there was like any that I could get that I didn't have that would help me. And I noticed that when it told me how I could get them, they're like, "Oh, you can steal it from this enemy." I'm like, "Who the hell steals?" I'm like, "I must be getting another party member." So it's good that you told me that, because I've been wondering how I can steal things, because I saw a reference to it. And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll figure that out. They'll hand me that ability at some point." But I'm like, we're pretty late in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you get her. I think she pops up after chapter 4.
Gotcha.
Right. And that was such a cool surprise, because I knew she was a party member, but I had completely forgotten that she was optional. So that was a really neat surprise this time.
Yeah, I love optional party members. It's just such a fun little thing they add to games where you have this entire character that you can add to your gameplay if you want, and that you can easily miss too. So whenever games do it, let alone the Paper Mario game, I really appreciate it, and it's fun to see that in a Paper Mario game. Something you wouldn't normally expect, like just another kind of something else that kind of connects it to the RPGs it's obviously based on, but with its own unique spin.
Yeah. I will say a couple of cool world building things I noticed while exploring Twilight or Rogueport this time around was that if you talk to Darkly, you find out that the mayor of Twilight Town is his grandfather, which is kind of a neat twist. And also, if you go to visit Ishnael, if you keep talking to Gus every time you go back between chapters, he has something new to say about holding a grudge against Mario for beating him at the beginning if you did that. So this time he's like, what kind of meathead beats up a guy, just for 10 coins, and he can't get over it. Like, he still just holds a grudge against you for beating him at the beginning. And I love those little details that just build up the world in this game.
Well, to that point, Jacob Tucker is asking, what did you guys think of the Luigi segment?
This one was pretty good.
Yeah. So this is Luigi in Jazzafraz Town, where he had to do, I think, a bit of acting, and his role was grass, just because he was dressed up as green, and so he didn't get to do anything. But apparently, he acted as grass so well that not only did he get a party member out of it, but that's where he got the reward that gave him the next piece of the marvelous compass. So
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
I love how they turned the dynamic of Luigi's stories around on this one. Like, Luigi came across as really dissatisfied with how everything went, and his partner is over the moon about him, like actually likes him. And it's the first one we encounter where the partner actually likes Luigi, but Luigi just thought this leg of his adventure sucked.
Yeah, and I love what he says at the end too, where he's falling for Princess Eclair again. He's like, I heard her voice. Oh, Eclair, I would be grass for you. Like,
Yeah.
walk all over me.
Luigi.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I love how the partner is actually a fan of Luigi this time. Like, they actually get along and respect each other, which is a kind of a nice change of pace from the others.
Yeah.
And,
That's right. I
got the
had
new
to-
Super Luigi 2.
Oh man, I didn't even
read that.
Oh, you
I
guys
had to
haven't done
read
it.
it.
Go back to it each time. There you get the
Yeah,
new
I
book.
forgot to read it. I bought it immediately and meant to read it and then forgot.
Has anybody bought the W badge yet?
I have not, but I've been meaning to. I was actually looking for it. It wasn't appearing for me, so I'm like,
Is it the Wario badge?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
I bought it
So-
after the investment I gave to that one guy returned 300 coins to me, because he comes back
yeah.
eventually, and you get
So-
whenever you invested, you get a little bit more back.
Yes. So yeah, that's lumpy. I haven't done it yet, but whenever you invest to him, he brings back triple. So that's why I gave 200, because I got
Right.
600 coins now. You don't want to invest any more than 300 though, and make sure not to have more than 100 if you invest 300, because you can only have a max of 999 coins. So you got to kind of plot it out.
Yeah.
So either buy
There's
a
a,
lot or get some gold bars, which is how you stack your money and put it in the storehouse.
Right. Going back to Keelhaul Key really quick, when you're bringing Francesca and Frankie back, if you talk to one of the Toad NPCs at camp after you get the ring, there's a really funny bit of dialogue where the Toad is like, "Man, I really need a girl like Francesca. Everyone likes to be bossed around now and then." And I'm like, "What? This Toad's got a little fetish going on."
Yeah. Like I said, horniest Mario game.
Yep. So good.
Well, speaking of Toad dialogue, did you guys talk to the Green Toad again back in the port of Roguetown?
No.
So if you talk to him, he says, "My big brother came back safe and sound. It's all thanks to you. Thank you, Mario." Do you guys catch that? You guys?
No.
That's a Mario 64 reference. That's exactly what Peach says when she's thanking Mario at the end of the game. Yeah.
I was thinking that the thank you Mario was a 64 reference, but I was like, that's kind of like, to me, it's a little like, I mean, you're thanking Mario. So I don't know.
No,
you could say thank you Mario is a original Mario reference too, because they say that at the end of 8-bit Mario.
Yeah, I mean, it's a subtle one, but this is like word for word a quote from Mario 64. Like, there's no way it could be interpreted any other way, I think. So
that reminds me of something I mentioned or something I wanted to mention earlier and keep forgetting. When you're exploring as Peach between chapters, it's a very loose remix of the Peach's Castle theme from Mario 64. If you listen closely, it's super loose, but you can hear some of the same melodies in that song, and it's really cool.
Sorry, for which song?
For when you're exploring as Peach in the X-Naut
base. Oh, I caught that. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, that's neat. Just a couple final notes here. So when the boss is sick, worried sick about his daughter, where's the bed come from? The desk before.
It's the desk transforms because the desk is gone.
Right, I guess so.
True. Right. They just put a mattress in the underside of the desk.
Also, go ahead.
I wanted to go back to Steve's W emblem real quick since he asked us about that. So I'm assuming you're dressed up as Wario from now on, right, Steve?
I am not yet. That is way too expensive. I think it's like, what, 360?
Yeah, which I have the money for now, but I can't buy it. I want to buy it.
I had the money by the end of this chapter. So by the time this chapter ended, I had more than enough for that, but I was still reeling from not having much when I went into the previous chapter. So I started the previous chapter with like 10 coins. And so now I'm up around 400, but yeah, I was like, I don't want to be back there again. Like, I like being able to walk into the item shop and buy like mushrooms or something if I need them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So go ahead, Ash.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Derek.
I was gonna pass it to Andre since he wanted to say something before.
Wow, it just zigzagged all over here.
Yeah.
All right. So I like Steve, I was doing some exploring this chapter too, and I actually now that I had largely because I had Miss Mouse, who we forgot to mention, Steve, can also tell you if there's any secrets hidden in the area you're in. So whether star panels, for instance.
Wow. It
made me realize what complete BS star panels are. Those things suck. If you don't get it just right, it won't flip out. It won't flip the star piece out. I remember them being annoying, but and I remember there being you have to be pretty particular with them. But it happened. But I'd encountered them earlier in the game too, and they were so particular that I just assumed that all right, I either got this one or it's just empty, and forgetting just how darn peculiar or how darn specific you have to be with where you hit them. I hate them. They're the worst. You have to be on the exact pixel.
Yeah, and not only that, if your partner's standing on the panel, it won't flip at all.
Oh, does that? Oh my God, that's the worst.
I had so many instances where I know Miss Mouse is telling me exactly where it is, and I'm hitting around or jumping around, and I can't find it, and eventually I just say, screw it.
I didn't even realize it was a partner thing, so I wonder if maybe that's been my hang-up. I don't know if it's positioning or if it's been the partner. That's terrible. That is straight up bad.
I'm not a fan of the star piece panels. Finding them behind things and exploring the scenery.
I like that.
Yeah.
But
the panels are stupid because you just go around butt stomping everywhere or using Miss Mouse everywhere. It's just not fun.
Unfortunately, the star pieces aren't that necessary. You can get the badges that you really want.
Right.
Really quick, did you guys get the up arrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been powering up your partners to level 2. We don't need to go into that too much.
Isn't that what we went back to Hooktail's castle for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, both Miss Mouse and Hooktails and the
yeah, I had completely forgot the name, so I said the place where you fight the dragon. But yes, Hooktails Castle is what I was referring to.
I was going to say both you. I know Ash and Steve also did the Pit of 100 Trials.
Up to level 50, and I got the upgraded item bag. Yeah. which is
I
super
love.
useful.
Oh, it's so nice to have the upgraded item bag because I store a lot of things and don't really use items, so it's just like nice to have just a bunch of heal items ready for me.
Zap tap, baby.
And then Zap Tap.
I'm all about 40. Zap tap is the best.
Oh, I got Zap Tap equipped immediately. He's like, "Yep, this is nice."
All right, well, let's go and move on to the train. Derek, do you want to walk us up through maybe the first day of the train?
Yep. So it's 3 days on the Excess Express. That's actually what the chapter is called. Or 3 days of excess.
I love that. Yeah,
And it
super
begins
Yeah.
like, all right, we got this nice, easy time, and but you almost immediately find this weird note in Mario's room, saying he's going to meet a what is it? A sticky, yummy end, or something to that effect.
It's a hard.
So like,
It's really
all
a
right, we're
horniest
already,
game.
I was waiting for someone to say it.
Yeah.
and yeah. So now it's becoming like, all right, well, who's threatening us? So you start going around talking to all the other passengers, and you find out that there's a missing stew pot for the cook. And fortunately, there's a detective on board in the form of Pennington, who is not a great detective. He thinks you're Luigi. He eventually deduces that you're Luigi after you solve this first mystery, which turns out the chubby toad Hefty stole it. So get back with him.
Real quick, did you guys tattle on the on the self-proclaimed chubby toad? Goombella straight up calls him fat, basically, like in a nicer way, but she straight up calls him fat pretty much. It's surprising.
And if you tattle on the Excess Express waitress, Goombella will be like, she's kind of flighty and she's kind of a ditz. Guys always go for girls like that, don't they? Why is that, Mario?
Yeah, yeah, I've got those. Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get the stew back. Pennington thinks you're Luigi because he's just that good at detecting things.
Totally.
But then it turns out there's a squabble happening between the Bob-Omb family that are back from the Glitz Pit. And it turns out Bub wants a autograph. And turns out there's a movie star on board as well, but that's not who he wants the autograph from. He wants the autograph from the train's conductor or the engineer. I forget what it's called. The guy at the front of the train.
I think. The engineer.
So
Engineer, yeah. The conductor,
Engineer.
I think, was the guy right next to their room, yeah.
Yeah, I believe.
He's the one who's guarding the luggage room.
Yep.
Right. So you do that, get it back to him, and it goes to night. And then there's a missing blanket for the conductor who can't sleep when he's too cold. So you actually got to go to room 4 where you use a special power, to use Vivian's power to hide. And a straight up dead toad will show up. And
that's such a cool part, by the way. I love whenever you have to do like the stealth type things and you have to hide. And you have to wait just long enough to the point where it feels like nothing's going to happen, but then something happens.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was a part specifically, and I made a note. I didn't feel like that was, maybe that's just me, I didn't feel like that was well telegraphed. I did not even think about using Vivian's ability in that room to make something happen.
I didn't think about it until I talked to Hefty. Did you talk to Hefty at all? Because he's the one that kind of like there's weird knocking in at night. So I think that's where I was like,
I did talk to him. I think I just didn't. I didn't put 2 and 2 together for whatever reason. So that was the one part of this chapter. I was like, man, I got a little stuck, and I figured it out on my own. But I was like, it didn't feel like it was natural to me.
How do you do, Steve? Since this is your first time.
I had no problems. I solving the mystery of who stole the dang soup pot was pretty easy since there were disgusting footprints all the way back to the room. And then with this part, I had been through every room because on my way through the train, I just decided to stop in every room and look. And so I knew that the room next to Hefty was empty. So I skipped it and I walked over to him and talked to him. And he's like, oh yeah, there's weird noises. And I was like, oh, well, I know there's nobody in there. So I'm just going to go in and hide and see what happens because what could be making noise? I was definitely surprised it was a friggin' ghost.
Yeah, dead toad.
Right. And
not
that not
boo,
only
was
it right, exactly, that it wasn't a boo, it was a dead toad. And he casually mentions, he's like, oh yeah, I died in here. This is where I died, so I just haunt this room.
Yeah.
I can't leave.
Oh, cool. I've got unfinished business. You need to find my diary, but don't read it. So I read it.
Right.
I read it too. Yep. I'm glad I saved it for it.
I made sure to save before I read it because I'm like, if he's threatening me, I'm like, especially with all the warnings, I'm like, I'm going to save just in case.
So, being the mean-spirited Mario that I am,
I
I
figured
opened
that.
it first, and they're like, "Do you really want to read it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then they're like, "Do you really want to read it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I'm gonna go save."
Nice.
They do a good
Third
job.
morning that you're like, you know what?
I wonder, like, there's got to be someone out there who got screwed by it. They probably had to save in hours. You know, for some reason they just ignored the warnings. There has to be at least one
honestly,
person. I want to hear that
That
story.
may have been me during my first playthrough when I was in college, because I remembered that clearly, and it stood out. It stood out to me. I knew that's exactly what would happen. I didn't forget that, and I feel like I remember losing like an hour of progress.
Wow.
I may not have, but I feel like maybe I did, and that's why it stood out to me so much over the years.
I could see that being really annoying on this chapter too, with there being so much back and forth already, with it being a train.
Yeah.
Like having to redo all of that, all the steps involved, would get a little annoying.
I do appreciate that there are actual consequences for reading the diary,
Yeah,
though.
I do too.
Yeah.
And so, actually, I just put something together now, and I don't know if it's meant to be the same thing, but after you beat this chapter, if you go back and talk to the NPCs on the XS Express, I think there's a toad in the dining car that talks about how someone passed away on the train like a long time ago by eating a poison mushroom in their food, which I thought was kind of messed up just reading about it. And I just thought about it now, like maybe that's that toad.
That could be.
Oh,
Wow.
it definitely was that toad.
I love that.
Was it? Okay.
What a
Yeah.
neat connection. Yeah,
really cool.
I read that too, but I didn't put two and two together. So
Yeah, it's really neat.
I think my favorite part of this whole first day is that when you give him back his journal, his diary, he's like, "Oh, I can go in peace now." Nah, never mind.
Yeah,
He's
you
gonna
even
hang
see
out
how
here.
he-
It's nice.
he
in
starts
here.
flying
I forgot
up.
how nice.
Yeah,
it
you
is.
got the halo going
yeah,
on.
he starts
Yeah.
going up toward like presumably heaven. I guess there's heaven in the Mario universe.
Right.
And then he's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna stick around here. This is more fun or more interesting for now. So yeah, that's
Did
fun.
any of you guys talk to Gold Bob at night?
I talk to everyone every time of day, pretty much. So
Okay,
what
'cause
happened-
that
I
line
can't remember
stood
the
out to me.
dialogue.
Because he says, "Am I to share a bed with the wife? She explodes regularly in her sleep."
I missed that one. Oh my
The
god!
corniest Mario game. ever.
Wow,
Oh my
That's
right.
god.
that's kind of incredible.
That's
Yeah.
something.
So, Derek, where were we at?
Basically, that was all of day one. Is we got those
Okay.
3 individual mysteries where we met more of the train passengers and all that. And what's a nice little thing before we move on is the time of day does change on the train. Like you got sunset, you have night, and it gives us a sense of a passage of time as you're doing all of these things.
I
The
love
music
that.
during the afternoon too, or the twilight music. That's really nice music.
Oh yeah.
I know. I think this part of the train specifically is one of my favorite parts of the game. I think it made me like kind of like how they actually romanticize trains in the game. I think seeing how they treat games in this game made me kind of romanticize them in real life too. To the point that I actually took a train up from California to Seattle last year. Amtrak's not quite as glamorous as the one in the game, but I had a really good time. And I feel like I was inspired partially by Paper Mario, and I think this legit might be one of my favorite trains in video games. Everyone says Uncharted 2 is the best train. No. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door has the best train.
Pretty good.
I love little touches with how you can hear the track. You can hear like the train moving constantly until it parks, of course, in which you don't on day 2. You can see the scenery going by at night. You can see the reflection of the of everything in the windows, and then you can even see like things moving back and forth as you're on the train. Like it's a tiny little touches that make it feel so real.
You would like an early portion of FF6, Andre. You should play up to the Phantom Train. I think you'd enjoy that.
I played. I played FF6. I knew what you mean.
Oh, I
wasn't
forgot.
playing
That is one of the
yeah.
ones you have played. My bad.
I'm the one that hasn't played FF6, so
Right.
wow.
Okay.
yeah, I know. But yeah, that was basically introduction plus 3 mysteries. But day 2, we have I'm finding my notes here. Sorry.
Do we not resolve the mysteries in day 1? I thought we.
I mean, the only one we didn't talk about was the train conductor. We talked about the diary, of course. We talked about the missing stew pot, which was real easy to find.
Right.
Just go to the fat guy. And then the
Cabela says it's okay.
yeah. I mean, I guess real quick. I mean, maybe we could talk about this at the end, but there is again, this is a chapter full of backtracking.
Right.
Lots of back and forth. But we'll see whether that was a problem as we go on. Either way, on day 2, turns out that one of the Ratuis, who is a business mouse, I guess, his briefcase has gone missing, which contains a patent or plans for a hyper honey I think it's a hyper honey thing that you
Yeah.
can do. That's a regular item that you have, but it's super good and might be even be able to bring back the dead. It's so good. However, if it is mixed with shells and gold, it will actually become a sticky, yummy explosive, which gives you your clues like, oh, so there's that left. And if you been talking to everybody, which we all have, you'll find out the one waitress is missing her shell earrings, and the glamorous Toad from Glitzblit is also on the train, and she's missing her gold ring.
I love this real quick. I just love how like everything clicks into place. Like, yeah, I mean it's simple, but I just love the feeling. It's like, oh, I get it. You know, this explains everything. So it's just a fun little thing.
Right.
Yeah. On day one, I was really surprised I couldn't solve the shell earrings and the gold ring, and I was like, I must be doing something wrong, but I was like, screw it, I'm supposed to go to bed. And so it was really cool on day two when I'm like, oh, this is part of the larger mystery. Okay. Like, I really liked how they set that up.
Yeah.
And also something that was kind of cool about chapter 6, and I'm sure you guys noticed this, there are a lot of just general parallels between chapter 6 and chapter 3, like with the Pianta Syndicate being part of the story. The same NPCs show up, like the Goldbobbery family and the Diva Toad.
Good point.
Toad. Yeah, and also something you noticed when we were talking about chapter 3, Andre, the music continues into the chapter start
Same
screen.
thing here.
Yep.
It's here too. So it's cool that there's a parallel between the two chapters where you travel either by blimp or train.
Yeah, that goes even farther. That I think also applied to the boat to chapter 5. When you're on the boat, I believe the music continues as well. So I think it's anything vehicle-based. The music continues. And also, hold on, real quick to your point, Ash, about the parallels. I had mentioned back in chapter 3 how it seemed like there was a theme almost of like, there was some like social economic things being explored in that chapter, and that arguably continues here too, where we're going to was it Posh Town or whatever?
Poshley Heights.
Yeah, Poshley Heights. So we're riding a glamorous train to a really ritzy area. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, all these parallels between the two chapters, you know.
But yeah, I mean, we have this mystery of like who stole the briefcase and who's planning this all out, and eventually you track it down by talking to everybody. The movie star Zip T is missing, and you go to his room and you find another note that seems to be from the briefcase. It's like, all right, he seems to be the culprit, but where is he? And eventually you figure out you have to use Vivian again to hide. He pops out. You catch him, and it turns out this was actually somebody impersonating Zip T, and he's caught by everybody. The briefcase has gotten back. It's all foiled, and you got the earrings and whatnot back as well. But double surprise, it was Dupless all along, and there happens to be a stop at a Riverside station, and once they stop at Riverside station, Dupless escapes from the authorities, and he's still loose because he was working with Beldum. So there goes their plans to blow up Mario. Unfortunately, at Riverside Station, the drawbridge is up, so we actually have to go through the station, which kind of constitutes our actual gameplay of this chapter, to put up the drawbridge. And of course, along the way, we got our Ultra Boots, new, even more upgraded boots, and encountered some weird creatures around a switch that was part of the drawbridge, but we'll stop there.
Yeah, so I guess real quick before we get into the station itself, I guess this basically concludes the mystery part of the chapter, right? Unless there's something I'm forgetting, but it's
pretty much done.
Yeah, the most amazing mysteries we've known about are over with. What did you guys think of that overall? Because I really, even though it's simple, you're mostly just walking back and forth and talking to people. I really loved most of this. Like, it reminded me, as Ash was saying earlier, like chapter 3, only minus the gameplay that we're just now really getting into. But I really enjoyed the kind of slow burn, the day by day, or the time of day by time of day sequence as you kind of like unravel this mystery. And I love, again, it's a little bit like the bottle episode I mentioned earlier. You have a small cast of characters stuck in this one confined location, and you're kind of like unraveling what's going on here. And I really love how Paper Mario works within these settings to kind of like explore, what is going on, and you're kind of like, you in this chapter, you're literally taking the role of detective.
Right. I don't know what it was. Like, I enjoyed this segment, and I enjoyed the chapter in general, but not as much as I remembered enjoying it.
I would agree with that. I'd probably agree with that. Yeah.
Like, I definitely didn't. Well, when we'll talk about this in our chapter wrap up at the end. But yeah, like, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the mystery element, but I felt the backtracking more this time for whatever reason.
So that actually, the backtracking didn't bug me that much. I remember that being worse than I thought. I think there's enough enough along the way to do that didn't bother me. But how did you, Steve, with this being your first time?
I really like this chapter. Chapter 6 taught me why I hate chapter 3. Because they are thematically similar. Like, you're in a small confined space doing a lot of repetitive stuff.
Right.
But chapter 6 has loads more variety to what you're doing. Even if you're not fighting, I mean, you're every time you backtrack, it's for a different purpose. Like,
right.
you're doing something new. You're figuring something new out. Whereas in chapter 3, you're just fight after fight after fight after fight, and that's how the story moves forward. Where this one, okay, you've got to find this diary, you got to bring that back, you got to give this blanket back to the guy, you got to find the autograph for the Babam family's kid, and it all just kind of felt more engaging because it wasn't just the same thing happening to me over and over again. Even if it was in a small space and I was just going back and forth, it was always for some reason that helped me move things forward. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, two things. Speaking of moving things forward, you're literally on a train, which is always moving forward. So you kind of had that progression. And the setting is just more interesting in general, I think, because in chapter 3, you're just in these hallways, like these actual just like backstage hallways, which are pretty boring. Whereas here, you're on like this kind of glamorous train that you can even look out the windows, and the setting's changing with the time of day. So yeah, I agree. Just everything kind of like works a little bit better here, I think, at least for this segment, than chapter 3's more kind of stretched out sense of mystery.
Right, and it also in comparison to chapter 3, it makes sense for the area you're in to be confining and small. It's a train, whereas Glitzville is supposed to be a city, and it's like one building, like, so it kind of, to me, didn't make sense in chapter 3 why I was in such a tight, small area, whereas this one, okay, it's a freaking train. Like, yeah, there's not going to be a ton of places to run around and do things.
One thing
plus the mystery wasn't immediately spoiled for you, Steve, so that probably helped.
Good point.
Helps.
Yeah, that too.
At that point, I had completely forgotten that Dupless was actually... I had forgotten that Dupless was in this chapter at all, let alone impersonating Zip Toad, which made me wonder in kind of a dark way, is Zip Toad still alive, or did he have the same...
It's like a thing? Or
stolen literally by Dupless, and he's just a shadow somewhere.
Oh my God.
I mean, not to spoil things, but I have played a little bit further, so we can keep these things rolling. But you do get an email from Zip T, the actual Zip T.
Oh, okay. So he didn't do the same thing to Zip T that he did to Mario.
Yeah, because we won't remember to bring that up, so I'm just going to do it now. So yeah. Zip T's fine. There's no Dupless didn't kill anybody.
Did you guys catch the fake Zip T's Scooby-Doo reference when you get to Riverside Station?
Yeah, if it weren't for you meddling kids.
It's a lot of fun.
That's so great.
I'm with Steve. I like this. This feels like it flows better. It's a nice bottle mystery. I feel like it's, I don't know, a little bit more engaging. Just smaller things, more interesting characters.
Yeah. Lots of characters too.
It just clicked with me in a way that chapter 3 didn't with its backtracking, and just I just got tired of the constant small battles and things you had to do in those cases. And it's a nice way to introduce kids to mysteries. Like this is basically the kid version of Murder on the Orient Express. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, let's go ahead, since we are low on time, into the Riverside Station. And this is pretty much a dungeon. This is pretty much straight up a dungeon with a bunch of puzzles to solve, and surprisingly, really using the roll-up ability. In this. You really use the tube ability in this one. Did you guys have issues with that falling puzzle?
No, but I repeated it over and over again just because I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything really cool hiding in there. So I did it like way more times than I needed to. I got the one badge that's in there. I think it's like one of the ones that I hate too. It was like a attack up, defense down, or one of those ones where you have to make a trade-off. I don't use those. So I was like, well, that was a waste of my time. And then I kept convincing myself that I had to take like every possible route through the thing because there had to be something better hiding, and there wasn't. So I ended up killing all those pokies and all the enemies in there. But I had a lot of fun with it. Like it was fun. I wish it
reminded me so much of Metroid Prime's Morph Ball segments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good point. Yeah. You can even jump too as a tube, which is very Metroid-esque. No, I really like this dungeon. This is actually probably my favorite dungeon that we've explored up to this point. Even if the setting isn't probably quite as interesting as the one on Keyhole Key, I just like the design of it. I didn't mind going through it. Good length. I enjoyed some of the little puzzles in there. You get a new ability with the ability to crunch yourself up and jump to the pipes, which added its own puzzles. And okay, we'll get to that. And as Pro Toman says, I love the sunset outside of the Riverside Station. It's beautiful. I love that too. You can see like the rippling of the heat coming from it. It's such a great, cool touch, and kind of like
it's a really nice looking chapter. And also, the Riverside Station, just in general, is a very unique setting. Not only for Paper Mario, but just in general. You've got a dungeon in an abandoned train station, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I really liked this dungeon, but I think design-wise, I don't think I would put it in my favorites, but I think it's paced out perfectly for this chapter. Like, it feels much shorter than other dungeons, but that's because you spend what feels like a long time on the train getting there. And so I think one of my favorite things about this chapter specifically is just how well paced everything is. And the dungeon was laid out really in a really smart way too. Like, there's the elevator, and of course they tell you going in, like, oh, you need to use the elevator. I'm like, that's not gonna work. I didn't even bother. Like, I didn't try it. I'm like, there's a door there. I'm going that way. Sure enough, it leads you along, on a quest to find the elevator key, which, I mean, sure. I knew that was going to be the whole thing. Like, of course you have to go find something. It would be silly not to. But that said, the falling puzzle was really cool.
Jacob, you said they love the falling puzzle. It's a fun one.
The whole dungeon just flowed really nicely, and I never felt at any point like I was tired of it or exhausted, even though I was trying to work my way through it really quickly because I was working on it today. I never felt like I was not enjoying myself, despite kind of trying to, not take my time with it.
Did anyone have any trouble getting the key at the end off the shelf? That took me a few seconds, like a minute or two.
No, not me.
The problem for me, and this is what I was kind of alluding to when you mentioned this new power, is that I don't know why, but I cannot get this thing to trigger when I want it to. Like, it takes me 4 or 5 tries.
Really?
I would push A and then I'd rotate the stick. And even in the tutorial, I had kind of some difficulty with it, which doesn't make sense because the hammer is B and you rotate it.
Yeah, true.
I've noticed that it seems I've messed up a few times. I didn't have too much trouble, but I've noticed that when I do mess up, it's because I try to rotate too quickly. Like, I've noticed that you just need to make sure you're holding A for like half a second after Mario lands and then start rotating.
See, that's probably it for me because it feels like the hammer timing is a lot more forgiving, or maybe it's just that the hitting with the hammer it's slower and feels more deliberate, so I'm waiting longer subconsciously, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And so I'll do it and I'll just end up with Mario walking around in circles. So I was under the shelf and I had a feeling like, oh, I got to get him to slam his head into the stupid shelf, because I tried at first like using coops, like trying to see if maybe I could jump and then shoot coops at it. And of course that doesn't work. So but I just kept trying it. I'm like, it just must not work here or something. And I stood there for a few minutes. I'm like, well, it's my only option. So I kept trying it until it worked. But I find the control scheme for this thing to be frustrating. And there's a part later in the chapter where that was kind of exacerbated for me a little bit, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Azran127 just said something I was going to point out, which I mentioned this during the Super Boots when it says you got a Super Boots, but it does the same thing here where it says you got an Ultra Boots, and I just thought that was a weird touch that they made that mistake twice, which was weird.
That is
that's
very clearly like a programming error. Like, they just didn't want to program for plurals because in Japanese there aren't plurals, so they didn't have to think about it.
I love how Mario RPG handled this in Great Guys Casino, where you could play card games and you had like 1 to 21 points or whatever, and or in blackjack, and it would put the S in parentheses, like it may be plural or not.
Yeah, that's usually how they get around it.
So Octo, real quick, go ahead, Ash.
Oh, I was going to say on talking about the Ultra Boots really quick, I had completely forgotten about the pipe hanging mechanic. 100%.
I did too. Oh, no, actually, I take it back. I remembered because I was spending more time exploring this chapter, and I spent forever in the freaking sewers trying to figure out how to get to the other pipe and near the one that I couldn't. I'm like, how the heck do I get
you
to
guys
it?
Were using the boat.
Then eventually I realized, oh, there's a freaking pipe above, and that's when it all clicked, and then so I knew it was coming at some point. Let's see here. Azran127 asks, any struggles platforming over the spinning gears. I didn't have any, and I actually loved this part. I thought it was like super clever. It's where you have to think about the platforming in a different way, and that's something I'd like to see in actual like Mario games. Like, you know, having this not entirely clear path, you have to sit back and think for a second how to get through. I thought it was a fun little thing that plays well into what Paper Mario does. And then at the end of this station, did anyone else find it a little bit odd that you have to use your hammer because you come across all those, what are those creatures called?
We don't know. It's just weird little things.
Yeah, the mystery
At this point, we
things.
don't know yet.
I guess we don't know quite yet.
You have to hammer them all away to reveal a switch. You hit the switch, which reveals another switch. It just felt a little needless.
It was a little odd, yeah.
Anyways, so that's what opens the train.
The drawbridge.
The drawbridge, that's it, right.
Yeah, puts on the drawbridge so we can continue on, and you can go around and talk at night if you want to, but otherwise all you have to do is go to bed. And then day 3, it's the final day. We're going to arrive in Poshley Heights. But as you're walking around, you notice that everybody's kind of missing, except for the actual person running the train. But even before you get to that point, you go to the item shop. The guy's knocked out, not even there. He's just, gone. You can't even buy items. But when you go to talk to the engineer, all of a sudden, those weird creatures from before, turns out they hopped aboard and they're invading the train. So you got to work your way to the back. And when you get to the baggage area, they've captured most of them. You have to hammer through and you rescue the conductor and the waitress, but all the other passengers have been kidnapped. So you get up on top of the train, and it's time for a boss fight against the Smorg.
Like this Rat King thing.
Yeah. So it's just this amorphous blob of all these little things, and meanwhile all the other characters are like stuck in it as you're fighting them.
Real quick, I love just the lead up to this whole segment where you can all the windows are plastered and covered over by these things, and you have to fight through them in the back room, and then as you're on the rooftop, following the top of the train, you're just like trying to get your way. You're fighting actively through these guys. It's just a really fun part, I thought.
And even before that, it's kind of creepy when waking up and nobody's around. It's like, what happened?
Again, the atmosphere is great in this game. When they do it right, they nail it. It's just such a fun little thing because it's a setting you're very familiar with now. And whenever something changes a bit, it's like, what's going on here?
I think I'm weirdly split. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was gonna say I actually really like that they didn't go over the top.
Well, you are over the top of the train.
The fact that it's noticed that something's changed. Like they could have easily gone too far by playing creepy music or doing something like that to in a misguided attempt to enhance the vibe. But it's just it's kind of quiet and there's nothing there. And because I went through and I noticed the first room was empty. I didn't go to the front of the train until I'd been to every room just to see what was going on. I was like, maybe there's even the ghost wasn't there. It was really weird. I even hid in the shadow thinking he might come back out and he didn't. So I was like, oh man, well there goes that idea. So I went back up to the front, and that's when all of the smorgs or whatever got on the windows, and that's when the music kicks in and things start feeling more intense. And then I went and woke up the shop guy and bought some stuff.
Real quick, I love how the shop closes at night too, but if you look through the windows, you can still see him hanging out there. But during this segment, if you go into the shop, I think he's sleeping, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, he's sleeping.
Yeah, he's knocked out cold.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, they're knocked out. Okay, yeah, that's a fun little thing.
And you wake him up and he's like, did you save me?
And then he goes right into a shopkeeper dialogue.
I'm kind of weirdly split on the whole Smorg thing. I love the visual element. I love the creepy element. They're cool looking, and the boss fight against them is awesome. It's really messed up to see all the NPCs trapped in the Smorg. But at the same time, I think this might be one of the reasons maybe Chapter 6 didn't appeal to me quite as much as Chapter 3, and that it felt kind of like it came out of nowhere. I know Azrin just said that the Toad Outside Riverside Station implies that Beldam is responsible, but it felt as though they needed a villain, but couldn't figure out a villain for Chapter 6, and they just have this creepy mutant blob thing that looks cool, but part of what I loved about Chapter 3 was the build-up to finding out who the villain is. And I know that was, you figured it out early, Steve, which I totally get. But for me, I just felt like it was kind of a disappointing climax in terms of who the actual villain was, As much as I enjoyed the fight, and the music for that fight is super cool.
I think that's actually a really good point. I mean, I think perhaps my biggest issue with this is my favorite part of the chapter is basically day one of the train. Once you get past that, you've largely wrapped up most of the mysteries. You certainly have by the time you reach the station. And then they introduce, the smorgs, which, well, kind of, are fun and interesting on their own. It doesn't have like the through line that Chapter 3 does that kind of ties everything together. And that's probably the worst part about, or not, the weakest part of this chapter is it's just not as well constructed in a narrative sense as Chapter 3 was overall.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing that I dislike about Chapter 6 compared to 3. But the boss fight itself is super cool, and I like that it actually has teeth, even more than Cortez. Like, it takes that one form and, like, the claw-looking form where it does a whole 10 damage to both.
Do you know how hard that is when you only have 10 health? Do you know how hard that is?
I didn't even think about that. You're screwed.
How'd you do it?
A single hit. Well, I got taken out, but I luckily had a life shroom, which brought me back to life. And I'm trying to remember I think I just got lucky. I just planned my attacks in such a way where I used Goombella at one point to give Mario double the attacks, and I just like went all into this guy, and I was able to take him out before he reused that 10-point attack. He went to his weaker attacks, thank God. And I was able to hang in there after the initial recovery from the mushroom. But I was sweating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm screwed.
I guess so, because I would just use Vivian for her hitting all the enemies' attack, and you only have 10 FP at this point.
Right.
So
That's
God,
tough.
You can't even do that.
Yeah, so I was low on FP the entire time. I had to use my recovery. Oh, I know what I did. I used my art attack once to take out, as much as I could.
Oh, yeah.
And then that weakened him to his core form. And then that's when I was able to just wail on him before he could fully recover. So,
yeah, I'm pretty well spread out, and I had no issues with this guy. Like, not like Cortez at all. So I think for Cortez, the issue for me was just the sheer number of attacks he could pull off in one turn. Because when you think about the number of moves he could do against you, he could do more damage than even that claw. Except, well, the claw was hitting both people. So, but I usually between Vivian and Mario was able to take out that claw form before it could attack. Just because, I mean, at this point, I think I'm sitting on something like 30 FP and a little bit more in terms of badge points and about 25 HP. So it was not very difficult.
I think I'm at 35 HP, 30 FP, and 27 BP.
I think I'm at 35 HP, 30 FP, and 30 badge points, I think is what I'm at. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I got really lucky. At the end of the Smorg fight, I got really lucky and the experience curse kicked in. So I think it was
lucky.
Like 60 or something. I got really lucky. Yeah.
That's a good question. I want to go back. Did everybody re-up that curse?
No.
Because I did it this time. It finally wore off in Chapter 5 for me.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't gone back since I bought the weakest curse they had. So, and I think
it's so worth it.
It started catching up with me. I don't know. I kind of like my hardcore strategy.
Nice.
But I realized I think I was underleveled, but I think I leveled up 3 times during this chapter, like during the station alone or something.
Oh wow,
2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I think I'm at level 17 right now or something.
I think I was around level 18.
I think I might have been 19. I'm 21 now.
I'm 19 after it, but I was 18 during the fight.
I don't remember.
So I might have only been 30 HP.
So anything else about the boss before we move on here?
I don't think so.
No, just that I really like.
Major, but it was just a nice, solid boss. Nothing too difficult, but
I love the music too.
The music's good too.
Yeah, it's actually probably my second favorite boss theme we've had so far, behind Duplex.
It's really good. And I guess speaking of the music, really quick, I like that what we're about to find out is that the train music was like an elevator-esque filter version of the actual Poshley Heights theme, and that was a really cool. It's almost like you're hearing the same. It's like you're hearing the Poshley Heights theme, the PA speaker, and I thought that was really a really neat touch.
Yeah, it doesn't matter as much to you, Andre. Just another side note. Sweet Feast is amazing because I used that because I was down to like 10 HP from getting hit. And all of a sudden I was up. Like everything was back to full from using Sweet Feast. And like, oh crap, I forgot how good this was.
Nice.
Uses a lot of star power, but my God.
All right, do you want to walk us through, I think, to the end of the chapter, Derek?
Yeah, pretty much the end of the chapter. There's not a whole lot left because you arrive in Poshley Heights. You get to run around this very posh town. Everybody's quite rich. There's a lot of penguins that seem to miss Shiver Heights or Shiver Town. I forget exactly what it was called, which is a reference to Paper Mario 64.
I love that.
Which is kind of fun.
Oh, real quick. Octopuppet earlier mentioned there's a Paper Mario 64 character in the background. I think of the station, maybe. Does anyone know who that is? I missed that too.
I have no idea.
Well, they follow up. I'll keep an eye out for it. So, anyways, continue, Derek.
Yeah. But yeah, you finally get to the sanctum, which is just keep going to the right and talk to different people. And we can't get inside. But turns out Pennington was the manager of the sanctum. So he lets you inside. And once you get in there, all of a sudden Dupless and the Shadow Sirens have gotten hold of the Crystal Star and escape. But that wasn't actually the Crystal Star. That was a fake that was put there. So you got to do a little puzzle solving and eventually find the real star.
I really like that puzzle, by the way, where you take the warp pipe into the painting on the wall, which is a little bit like Mario 64. That's just a fun little thing. Then you go back, then you re-enter a different version of the very building you're in. So it's a fun way of going about it.
Really cool. Like, I love the, like, even though it's a simple puzzle, I love the idea of it and the atmosphere. Once you go into the painting and you go to the true Postly Sanctum, not only is it kind of creepy thinking about what you've done and kind of where you are, but the music reminds me of the Forest Temple from Ocarina of Time.
It would remind me of something,
creepy.
Right?
Yeah,
and I love
it's just a really cool thing.
And it's kind of conveyed too through just the scale of this building. Like, it feels big by Paper Mario standards. And even Goombella kind of comments on that too if you check her tattle ability on the environment. So,
yeah.
How'd you feel?
I really liked this part. I was expecting. So, first off, I didn't just go all the way there, even though I was pretty ready to be done. Like, I felt like the chapter had over. It was done. Like, I didn't want anything else. But I remembered that Crump showed up at the end of 5 and I had to fight him. So I kind of went into Postly expecting a fight. And there's a hotel on the way up there and it costs 3 times as much as a normal hotel. And I was like, well, it's my only option. And so I paid it and they punish you so much for paying that. Like, you lose control of Mario. He walks very slowly to the elevator, gets in the elevator. There's like a 30-second elevator ride you just have to watch. Then he slowly exits the elevator, walks to the bed by himself, gets in the bed, gets out, and does the whole thing backwards.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm truly paying for this
But
with
then
my
you got
time.
an item, Steve. You get an item for it. Isn't that worth it?
That is true. You do get a meal cooked by Zesty for it, which I thought was pretty neat. But yeah, it was just so funny. Like, they're like, yeah, you shouldn't have done this. Like, the game was like, way to waste your coins.
I was considering it, but when I saw I can go into the room without paying for it, I'm like, okay, it didn't seem like I'm missing out on a whole lot. So,
right.
Yeah, I ended up. I just assumed there was a fight around the corner, and I wanted to be at full health because I didn't want to lose and have to do it again. Which of course turned out not to be the case. But the Sanctum. So I already had the idea that it was in the painting spoiled for me by the Toad Ghost on the train, because he mentions it. He's like, there's a painting, like, he goes, the painting, you can jump into the painting in the Sanctum, or it'll swallow you whole, or something like that. And I was
There's
like,
some little like, reference. So
yeah, so I walked up to it and I tried to jump in it Mario 64 style, and I was like, oh no, I got to use this power I have a hard time with. And so you have to use it like a bunch of times. And fortunately, at least in the Sanctum, they like mark out with blocks where you need to use it at. So it wasn't as difficult, but I still just had a hard time getting it to activate sometimes. Although once it was clearly marked for me where I needed to be, I did find it to be at least a little easier.
Did you, I'm assuming you guys all found the L emblem that was inside?
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I'm rocking the Luigi colors now.
Nice.
Yeah, same.
Jacob Tucker says, I like that Pennington treats this as a final test for you, but it turns out he had no idea where the star really was. That is a fun little thing. And I like how he even comments on that beforehand. He's like, what? Of course I know where it is. And then you find out later he had no idea.
I really like Pennington. I think he's great. I mean,
is he the same detective from the first game?
I don't know if he's the same one.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
don't
wasn't
think
sure.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I do like I do like for some reason that penguins seem to be detectives in this universe for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Big on solving crime.
Mentioned something I was going to bring up, and it sucks you didn't find it, Steve, but I got lucky and found the inn coupon in Poshley Heights. So I got to stay there for free. And
Nice.
Yeah.
I wish
I
I
had
tried
plenty of money. It was no.
Oh, actually, I have
issue.
a bunch of those coupons. I should use them. Protoman also says though, did anyone try to swim in the swimming pool? So I did, and I got immediately bit by that fish, which apparently also appears in the fountain. And what's really funny is I'm like, oh, that's weird. Is that just like a quirk of it being water, like, a programming thing? But one of the toads, I think, or a sign or something, actually comments on the fact that there's like a man-eating fish within the waters here. So I like that they kind of like lampshade that. which is the final
Nice.
explanation. So overall, Poshley Heights, actually, I hate it. I actually hate it. Besides the Sanctum, which is fine, I actually hate this town itself. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the music, the design, that's just kind of bland, not a whole lot going on here. The fact that it's an upscale, ritzy town. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is, it's not the big thing that you're there for. It's two screens of town stuff. I mean, it's basically if, what was it, Petalburg or whatever that you were in, that first town, was the main attraction of that section. And it's really not. If you think about it like that, it's just a town.
It's really, in the context of how the story's gone or not even the story, but the gameplay, this is like an epilogue to the chapter almost. We beat the boss already, as we touched on. We're just going for the star. And that's kind of fun. I like that it's different in that way. It's more of a slow wind down rather than a big climax. But I just hate the town itself. It's not that bad. I just don't like it. So
I do like how the game continues to play with its own format.
It does.
It's funny because when you're fighting the Smorg, it feels like the chapter end boss, and I didn't remember if it was or not.
Right,
and then you keep going. And like Steve, I couldn't remember if there was another boss in Poshley Sanctum. So the whole time you're approaching the Crystal Star, you're like, okay, something's going to happen, or I'm going to examine the Crystal Star, and then something's going to happen. But no, you literally walk up to it, avoid those dark booths, and that's it. And that, even though I didn't like the lack of a narrative point in the Smorg, I do like how the game keeps surprising you by playing with its own format. Like, no, hey, you got it. No, we're not. No gotcha moment this time. That was kind of neat.
Did anyone fight all the booze in that room before realizing you don't have
like
to?
one or two.
I thought one. Yeah.
Oh, of course Steve did.
Really? Nice.
Listen, I didn't pay 30 coins not to kill something.
Nice. Love it. Man, you really should be wearing that Wario costume. It fits you.
The one of the reasons I skipped them and as many enemies as I could in this chapter was because I had just done the Pit of 100 Trials up to floor 50, and I was already too strong for the enemies in this chapter, and I would only get like 1 star point per enemy. So I was like, what's the point, you know?
Right.
Makes sense.
Oh, Pro Toman brings up a point. Finally, Pennington is accurate when he calls you Luigi. I was thinking that too. It's like, if I wear this badge, will he comment differently? I didn't try it, but
I don't think he does.
Okay, I guess it just makes sense. He would just unless you start calling him Mario.
Jacob Tucker brings up a good point too. I had completely forgotten about this, but I tried it immediately, and yes, if you combine the L and W badges, you get Waluigi's colors.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah,
nice.
I'm gonna be rocking that as soon as I get that Wario badge. That's why I was trying to find the Wario badge because I wanted that.
So many great secrets in this game. I love it. So it's a very fun game to explore. Any other thoughts on Chapter 6, everyone, before we wind it down?
I mean, I guess we can do our typical ranking of the chapters.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's anything before that.
Before that, I
just really enjoy it.
Okay.
At some point, I think it's on day 2 of the XS Express. If you talk to the waitress, she says, I think it's after you return her earrings. She says, "You are like the nicest old mustachioed overall wearing guy I've ever met."
Yeah.
Nice.
That stood out.
She must have met a lot.
Although, about that, Toad, the whole side story with her and her ex-boyfriend and how, with involving the earrings, I think she's trying to find, which were given to her by him, I believe. Yeah. And then at the end, she mentions getting a call from him, and I think she's really happy about that. I'm like, what's the story with you two?
A payoff to that if you talk to the right NPC in Rogueport coming up.
Oh, really? Okay, good to know.
Oh,
all
really?
Right, all right.
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, all the little connections.
Yeah.
What, Steve?
All right.
Sorry, did you say something, Steve?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No, he's just reacting to what Ash said.
Yeah.
Oh, Azran mentioned that Straw Hat Ninja had a question on Patreon.
I actually have it right here, so I was going to bring it up.
Oh, cool.
So
I was
they
just getting
commented,
ready to bring it up.
So they said, I'm unfortunately going to miss this one, so I will post my question here. What did you guys think of the mystery, and how cool was it that the train, and how cool was the train as a world that evolved with the story? So you already kind of touched on that, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. I love the idea of taking the train, making a single location, but having a story evolve with it as you travel along the track to your destination. It's a really cool idea. And, I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Same.
Pretty much
I mean, to a lesser degree than Chapter 3, as I mentioned before, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think I actually have no recollections. I could be totally off base, but I think this might be those two might be my favorite chapters in the game. But we'll see if that continues. And to that point, let's give our rankings here of what we think of in descending order, favorite to least favorite, what our favorite chapters have been so far. So I guess I'll go ahead and start here since I have mine up. Mine, chapter 4 was Twilight Town, right? I'm trying to remember.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So we go chapter 4, Twilight Town. Chapter 3 being
Blitzpit.
Pit. Chapter 6 being this one. Then we have chapter 2 being Bogly Woods. Then we have chapter 5 being Keel Hall Key.
Yeah.
And then chapter 1 is I think that's the order I've decided on. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I was agreeing with Jake and Tucker for a while, but we're gonna split on this one because he puts chapter 6 above 4. I would still put 4 above 6, but 6 is up there. I'm gonna go chapter 4, chapter 6, chapter 5, then 3, 1, and 2.
All right. I think this is where I'm going to split with a few of you and maybe a lot of the fans too. But chapter 3 is still my favorite, followed by 4, closely by 4, followed by 5, and then I'm struggling between 1 and 6. Really hard. Man, I think I might actually put 1 first, and then 6, and then 2. But I also didn't like 6. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me this time as much. I had a hard time focusing on it. It's just I kind of felt like it wasn't paced right for me. And again, the whole Smorg element really kind of disappointed me in terms of not really having a whole narrative climax.
So are you saying you wouldn't want some Smorg?
Oh, man. Oh, yes, I am saying that. So you could essentially consider 1 and 6 equal for me, but yeah, I'm going to say 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, 2, or 6, 1, 2. I kind of go back and forth.
Oh man, how about you, Steve?
Wow. So my opinions are tracking closer to Derek's than I thought they would. I am 4, 6, 5, 2, 1, 3. So just a minor change from Derek's rankings, but I 3 sucks, man. I can't.
Yeah, 3 it has issues.
All right.
That's funny. Yeah.
Well, and on that note, I think that brings us to the end of our chapter 6 discussion. So stay tuned for chapter 7 coming up probably right now. So let's move on to chapter 7, where we get a tease pretty early onto where exactly we're heading next. We finally figure out what exactly is going on with Princess Peach. Derek, you want to give us the rundown of what happens here?
Sure. For our Peach section this time, we have a Tech discovering the full breadth of Grotus's plans. He's finally deciphered that data disk and is able to relay what exactly is going on. But because of that discovery, he wants Peach to escape. He's like, I can't hold you here anymore. We need you to get out of here. And turns out she's being held on the moon. That's where the base is. However, before she can escape, she's in the middle of typing out her message to Mario, informing about the moon so she can get out of there. Grotus appears. And Grotus, says, can't believe I've been betrayed by my own computer, and proceeds to delete Tech. And that's how it ends. Peach taken away, Tech being deleted. Things not looking so good.
Poor Tech. Jeez.
Right?
You know, he may have seemed a little bit creepy at first, but he didn't deserve this.
It was a little sad.
Yeah, like the prolonged death scene. I've made the HAL 9000 analogy before, but it even felt a little bit like that again, where in the movie, they're unplugging HAL's data disks, and you hear him like losing his mental faculties like over a prolonged period of time, and that's exactly what they did here too. Like, I mean, not to the same extent, but like you see him like kind of almost losing it as he's slowly dying, I guess. I literally don't even remember what happens after this. So, yeah.
There's also, as the dialogue speeds up, as he's being taken offline, you can see him say, I love you, in like these broken up letters. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to point out, though, as somebody who works a lot with technical hardware, I love the fact that the process of resetting Tech is hitting 2 red buttons. Like, he sends 2 X mounts and he's like, push those red buttons at the same time. Like, it's this simple thing. I personally enjoyed that. But yeah, it was really sad. Like, I didn't expect to care too much because he's displayed pretty creepy behavior throughout. But then when he finally, like, the I love you thing that you kind of catch is, like, and it scrolls very quickly vertically, so you have to be paying attention. And that was definitely sad. I felt bad for him, like, for the first time ever.
Pretty impressive.
Completely randomly too. I know Derek and Steve, you'll appreciate this as well as some of the fans maybe, but that reminded me of FF7 and Remake, where you have to press the buttons or do the switches at the same time in Mako Reactor.
Oh yeah.
I immediately thought of that for whatever reason. Yeah.
This is a good time.
I was not way better at it.
I was just thinking about how you have to hold 2 buttons to like force reset an iPhone. It's like it's just a big phone.
Good point.
Yeah.
This is probably a good time to point out something that we haven't really touched on yet, and that's just how well the dialogue, the way they portray it, is almost like a characterized, or they do these really neat characterizations in and of itself, whether it appears like in a frenzy, or if it's shaking, or even the pace of how the dialogue appears, like actually being written on screen. It's just a neat little touch that I often just skip through, undermining the entire thing, but I appreciate that's there, you know? And that's something that I didn't skip through for tech, because it does like add just a little emotional punctuation onto what's currently happening.
I totally agree. That's something I've really enjoyed and appreciated throughout, just because I'm so into the dialogue in this game. And yeah, just when the letters are blown up super big, or they're kind of like undulating and trying to be cute, like it's such a great little, just a nice little addition that adds so much character and flavor.
Yeah, I mean, I could shout out to like the dialogue system in general. You can see it first off, the default pace is pretty good. But you can skip through it easily enough, or you can even backtrack with the Z button, so it's easy to...
oh, I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah, me neither.
It's super... I just remembered it actually like a couple days ago. I wish I'd remembered it before then. But yeah, the great dialogue system. It feels actually surprisingly forward-thinking by Nintendo standards, considering they've regressed from it since.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it
like
gives you
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just this, I feel like I mentioned this like in part one of these discussions, but just it really does give the sense that even though there's no voice acting, you get a sense of their personalities and how they talk, and there's a different cadence to it. It's really cleverly done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite examples is the waitress on the XS Express. Like whenever she talks, it's like really wavy looking, and I just kind of get the vibe that she talks like a valley girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, I was supposed to remind you guys, speaking of the XS Express waitress, did you guys talk to the proper NPC in Rogueport this time to kind of find out the resolution of that story?
We're sequence breaking.
Well, I guess I just didn't want to forget because Steve brought her up. That's why.
I did.
But I guess we can wait.
Did not. I completely forgot.
Yeah.
I
you want to mention it now, Andre, or wait?
Go ahead and mention it now, I suppose.
So yeah, it turns out if you talk to the I can't remember the race's name, but the rat inside Podley's place, he talks about how he gave, he's like, I wonder how that I fell in love with this girl on the XS Express. I've only been on the train once, mind you, but I completely fell in love with her, and I gave her these earrings as a token of my love. And so it's that rat who's falling in love with a new woman every chapter, basically.
Oh, nice.
I see.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Steve, were you surprised by the setting at all, where we discover that Peach is on the moon?
I was. I thought so. I had a couple running theories, but I think the prevailing one for me, so I wasn't horribly far off. I thought she was in a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe they were orbiting, like, because at the point that you get to your most of the crystal stars, like there's nowhere left on that map to go.
Right.
And so I'm thinking like, oh, she must be like in space. Like I just kind of the technical vibe of the area kind of led me to believe that it was flying. And I wish I had thought about it more, because I probably would have ruled that out if I thought about Glitzville. Because that's already like a floating city. So
Right.
they wouldn't have gone back to that well again. But yeah, I was halfway there, I guess.
Yeah, I was actually.
See, I thought they would have tricked you because of Grotus's office, where it's water all behind him with all those sharks. So I was like, I would have thought you might have gotten tricked to thinking it was underwater.
You know what? That for some reason that didn't cross my mind. I just got like a real strong space vibe from all the machinery and the sounds too. Like it had this typical, like stereotypical alien space kind of.
They also have "not" in the name as an astronaut, so
True.
it's kind of implied that they're.
Well, see, I kind of thought though, like I don't know why, but like the "not" to me could have also pointed to like nautical or something to do with the sea.
Right.
They also are kind of dressed. They don't look like spacemen. They almost. I would say if you just showed me the design of them and asked me where they live, I would wager underwater. Probably just because they have like the goggles and their mouths are covered up, but it doesn't like scream spacesuit to me or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, and Goombella mentions this and later in the chapter in a tattle, but I want to know what they look like underneath their outfits. Like they're so weird looking. And this is probably a good time to mention, I love the way they talk to each other. Like, bah, ha, ha, bah, bah, bah. They're so weird. And one of the first lines in the chapter is one of Grotus's lackeys saying, "No joke, dude. I mean, affirmative, sir, dude. That is, I'm positive, sir."
Is this around the same time as the Prinnies from this guy? Because I always associate dude with those things.
But the one thing I will say about Prinnies that I love is that their dude is DOOD.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah.
I love them.
So
speaking of which, Prinny 1 and 2 is coming out on Switch real soon. We should check that out.
Yeah. I never played them, but I love the Prinnies, so.
Jacob Yu points out that you can briefly see the moon after Chapter 1 while it shows tech flashing through the security camera feeds. I had no idea. I've never noticed that, so neat touch.
Right. Did you remember it was on the moon, Andre? Because a few times when you were talking about going to Peach and talking about the base, I was like, is he going to let it slip that it's on the moon? You caught yourself each time. But...
Yeah, I actually didn't. I don't remember if I remember the moon setting specifically or not. I mean, I think I would have I thought about it. But for whatever reason, I just kept going back. I called it a spaceship at one point, not intentionally. But yeah, that's just a connection I made based on playing it again. But yeah, I don't remember if I specifically remembered it taking place on the moon. Going back to it now.
First. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I didn't remember it first, but there is actually, and I'll mention this later in the chapter, there is something in the game that gave me a hint that it might be the moon before I remember, because I didn't remember that it was the moon just from my first playthrough. But there's a hint in the game that's really cool foreshadowing that I will mention later.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the second part of the intermission prequel thing.
Interlude,
Bowser.
whatever you want to call it.
Derek, what happens
So
here?
we have another Bowser section where they've discovered something. They've discovered this big secret area that might have to do with something going on. So Bowser heads out there himself, and we get another Bowser section where we're going through 3-1, and eventually he makes it there. And it turns out to be Rockhawk's training room because he has his belt up on the wall again. Rockhawk comes in, is like, what are you doing messing with my room? I'm going about to rock you, does his whole spiel. I do love that Bowser flattens him in one go. And all he says is just pain.
Yeah.
And basically Bowser realizes that wasn't the right place. Mario already has it once again, and he's wasted his time again.
Yeah.
And I love that Bowser throws a tantrum at the end. He starts stomping his feet, and I was like, that's so awesome. He's being so childish about this whole thing.
My favorite part of the scene easily is the fact that Bowser calls Rockhawk a chicken nugget.
Yeah, that is really good.
The best.
All the dialogue is great. I love when Rockhawk gets squashed into the ground by Bowser, and then then Rockhawk just says pain.
Yeah.
So good.
It's really good.
No, I loved everything about this part, and especially even the actual Mario 2D segment where you're playing as Bowser in the castle setting. And I like how afterward Bowser's that felt like home or familiar or something, because just like where Bowser usually lives in the Mario games. But yeah, this is actually the first time it actually felt like more of a proper Mario level to me. In these side-scrolling segments, and I really like too how there's even one part in the level where you can only reach it if you're small Bowser, if you're taking damage and you shrink. Just a small little touch that I appreciated.
And what's funny is that this world, more than any of the other Bowser levels, actively makes it seem like there's something beyond the exit pipe, and there's not. I got there and there's nothing, but it makes there those coins that you can't normally get unless you really go out of your way for them. And I don't know why they did that, but it's a fun little twist. Mm-hmm. Oh, also, sorry, Jacob Tucker brought up a great point. I love when Bowser says, "I don't know anybody named Gonzalez." What are you talking about?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Where do we see where Rockhawk's secret room is? By the way, where in the world it is?
Nope. We have no idea.
Yeah, why does a fortress? I guess that's his training ground. He says the castle's his training ground, which is kind of funny. But yeah, where is this area? How did Bowser stumble across it?
Who knows?
I also like Bowser's reaction and Cammy's reaction when the crystal star shatters. You're like, oh, what?
Yeah, I love she drops it and it breaks. She's freaking out, and Bowser freaks out. Because the Bowser moments are probably my favorite in terms of writing and humor in the entire game. Right. And I imagine it's going to stay that way. We're right at the end now. So.
Yeah, I mean, we keep, people ask for another Paper Mario in the vein of 1,000-Year Door or Paper Luigi. Where's my Paper Bowser game? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that.
Right.
But honestly, I would... Oh, go ahead.
I was like, we got a little bit of that in Super Paper Mario, sort of, but yeah, it's not the full Paper Bowser game I think we need and deserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would literally take any style of Mario game where Bowser is the center of attention. Like I would love a proper like 3D Mario where you're Bowser.
That'd be amazing.
Like, give me that. I'll play that.
I mean, Bowser's Inside Story kind of proves that it works.
I mean,
you should play Inside Story if you haven't.
Slight spoilers here. The end of Mario Odyssey kind of proved that too. So.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's basically what I was thinking of when I said that. Like, if I had a whole game of that, that'd be a freaking awesome.
I just want a game where you wreck a bunch of stuff as Bowser. I want like Bowser core.
Bowser,
like realistic environmental destruction.
Exactly, 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to when we return to Mario at or leading to Rogueport. Derek, what happens here?
So we go back to Rogueport, and turns out Luigi's right there at the train station. Might as well talk about him real quick, where we get the section where he went to the rapturous ruins and he learned about the Luff Empire and how the compass actually predicts the future. So actually not really too much humorous stuff. It's actually kind of like building up the lore of Luigi's whole adventure, which was kind of cool. And then once you get done with Luigi, you get to go around. Eventually, you learn that you need to go to the Far Outpost, which I love that name.
Yeah, Far Outpost.
Yeah,
it's far out,
and it's to the left. And you need a hammer, and you just got the Ultra Boots, but we don't have the Ultra Hammer yet. Well, you might have already gotten it before this point, but it turns out that chest that's in the middle of Rogueport, you need to bop it underneath in order to get the Ultra Hammer. And you break open the way to the left, and you make your way to the Far Outpost. Not really too much muss or fuss to it other than that.
Wait, at which point does the chapter actually begin properly? Is that...
Once you go into the pipe and to get to Far Outpost.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, I think actually one of my favorite things about a couple things. My favorite thing about this chapter is once you get off the train, you can go right back in. You can go talk to a whole new cast. Yeah, whole new cast of characters. Pretty much everyone's different. Catching the train this time, which makes sense because how everyone had already ridden it. But there is, and all the dialogue's new. The only exception is the Ghost is back, and his dialogue hasn't been updated at all, and that part disappointed me just a little bit. So,
well, this is what I. Oh, go ahead.
No, continue.
Well, and I mentioned this last time. My sequence broke by accident, but this is when I discovered that the Toad NPC talks about someone who died on the train by ingesting a poison mushroom a long time ago, and that's when I put the two together, that it was that Toad spirit. And I was like, what a cool little piece of world building.
Yeah, absolutely. Did anyone have any trouble figuring out where the Ultra Boots were? Ultra Boots? Or no, Ultra Hammer?
Nope.
No, I've actually done it completely by accident.
I did it before I was supposed to. I was like, I know what I need to do to get that chest. I'm getting it now.
It was partially because I was in a hurry, but I'm like, I don't have time to think of where it could be in Rogueport or if it's in the sewers. So I just looked it up. I'm like, oh, are you? Or I talked to the person underground rather, the fortune teller. I'm like, are you kidding me? That forgot that freaking chest has been there the entire time that I couldn't reach. So that was
I was waiting the whole game to open that thing, not remembering what was in it, and I'm like, finally I can open it, and I just had no idea it was the Ultra Hammer. And same thing with actually Far Outpost. Once I got the Ultra Hammer, the first thing I did was, okay, what's to the left of the Twilight Town pipe? And I went to Far Outpost early by accident. I just completely
yeah. So there is a nice touch to the Ultra Hammer explanation, though, because it's the last time Toadette has anything to teach you. So she actually gets a little sad, and she's like nervous to go away from Mario. It's like, oh, it's parting, and like it's like, all right, looks like Toadette kind of has a crush on Mario in this section. It's a little weird, but okay.
And as Azron points out, who says, and Toadette cries off into the sunset. You can actually see her crying as she runs off for the final tutorial. Which is a cute but sad touch. So, and is this Toadette's, is this like the first proper game, like adventure type game she was in? Was she introduced for Double Dash?
Yeah, I believe she was introduced for Double Dash.
Okay.
This might have been the first time she was introduced, and this is why she wanted to get the Super Crown.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, this is the first time like she's had like an actual personality that we've seen. And yeah, she's just like a cute little character who's just kind of in there as I don't want to say an afterthought, but like very much a side character. And it's cute that even they give them that much attention in Paper Mario.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, Azran mentions that she was in DDR Mario Mix, but I think
that was after. I think that was after 1,000 Year Door.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. I thought that was 2005 though.
Only game where Waluigi was the antagonist.
Oh my god.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Luigi's story really quick because we kind of glossed over that, but this might be my favorite Luigi chapter of all, at least so far. I don't know. I can't remember how it ends, but I just loved, like, first of all, the 1,000-year-old boy's name is Cranberry, which is what? Well, like, what? And then Luigi wakes him up by sneezing, even though he's like, supposed to be this chosen hero. He just wakes him up by sneezing. Then he's got this weird friend, Screamy. We don't know what he is, who he is. He just says he has a message to deliver. And that's all we ever hear from him. What the hell is that guy? And then at the very end, he's like, I'm going to save Princess Eclair. I will be super. Like, you can tell he has such an inferiority complex, and I feel so bad for him, but it's so funny.
See, this was the first time where I fell asleep listening to Luigi as well. Like,
That's so funny.
I did
think
too, Steve.
that the Luigi story is just a vehicle for humor, and they completely missed it this time, and I didn't dig it. I could have done without it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
I mean, we find out next chapter because he has all the pieces. Now we just need to see what happens with him and Eclair.
Even the partner wasn't as funny
Right.
this time, right?
Yeah.
It just lacked personality this time for me. It felt more serious, which, I mean, good for Luigi as a character, but as the player, I was just like, whatever. This didn't even make me have fun out of here.
Humor was just more subversive in that sense, I guess. Like, 'cause I still found it pretty entertaining, but just like in a more subversive sense. But clearly, it's not equal to everybody, which is totally cool.
Toad? No, there's no toads here.
Totally
There's no
cool.
toads here.
wait, Andre.
Go ahead.
No,
Just to go back to the Ultra Hammer, like as somebody who didn't know what was around the corner, I had gotten so used to seeing that chest up there that I didn't even think about it when I went back to Frankly. And then they're like, oh, you're going to need the Ultra Hammer. And I walked out and I was just like, oh yeah, there's this chest I can't get to. It's stupid huge. The hammer's in there for sure. And obviously we all know how that played out. But yeah, I had gotten just so used to seeing it and not being able to get it that I just walked right by it.
You're blind to it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun little thing that, something you've been seeing the entire game you can now access, which is kind of like what Rogueport's all about. Like, you're always finding these new nooks and crannies, but this is like probably the first time that it's like right in plain sight, and it's kind of fun to discover that you can't access it now.
Yeah.
It's also
for
cool
sure.
that when you're talking to Frankly about the Ultra Hammer, the dialogue can change depending on whether you have it or not already. Because I had it, and so they make an allowance for the fact that Goombella's like, oh, we already have it. It's party time because we already got it. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
They do change that up, and it's pretty cool. And it feels good to get the Ultra Hammer because now all of Rogueport is open to you. So I obviously went through all of the floors again, like seeing what I've missed and whatnot. And
You mean the sewers or?
Yeah, the sewers.
Yeah.
I did go back to the previous areas. I'm like, I can't remember all the things I can access now. So I'm not bothering with that. But we got the other two quick travel points, which will be useful. And
I think I'd opened those earlier because I required the previous hammer, or didn't it?
No, you there was two more down there that you couldn't access.
Oh, okay, no, then I got them. I must have done it the day before or something. So
It's weird though, because like the fast travel, it's like a half measure. Like they have it, but they didn't go all the way with it because it doesn't take you everywhere that you would need to go for troubles and such. And there are certain places that are still really annoying to get to. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's a half measure in that it's not that fast of travel. It's still a pain to
You
get
still
to.
have to get down there.
Yeah, the sewers are. Yeah, it's funny. Like the sewers aren't as annoying and large as I remembered, but I still find them annoyingly large and annoying.
They're a little confusing, weirdly
Yeah.
enough. Like even though, like, as I agree, they're not as confusing as I remembered them being, but they're still kind of weird to wrap your
Right.
head around until you really understand the way they're laid out.
Yeah,
Especially
the
when
layout is just confusing enough to make it inconvenient, even if you've been in there a bunch. Like,
Right.
I ended up and we'll get to this in a second because I have a lot of feelings about this. But
Oh
I ended
yes,
up
I knew
using
you
the fast
would.
travel in this chapter a lot, but only after I died once, halfway through the main quest line, and then had to go back and do it all over again because I was dumb and didn't save.
Oh, no.
Oh,
And fast travel is still kind of a pain. Like, even if you know where all of those are, one, none of the pipes are labeled, so you have to remember which
Right,
one
which
takes you
one?
where.
Yep.
Mhm.
And two, it like you guys were talking about, they don't take you everywhere. There are places you can't get to with those, so then you have to exit all the way out of the sewer or go somewhere else. And that's when it becomes really annoying, because there are spots where it's like, okay, you've been here, but now you need to go to another spot that doesn't have a pipe. And so enjoy your, ridiculously long walk over to the next area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, if they were to remake this game, I think the sewers is one area they could definitely improve on, both in terms of accessibility and just knowing where you are in relation to them. Like, even like a map or something would probably help. But but even if they don't want to go even that far, just give me some kind of indication of like where in the sewers you are, like recoloring the environment a little bit to be darker the deeper you go. It's just really easy to get turned around and confused and lose your spacing and context where you are in that area.
I didn't have too much difficulty, but I remember the first, like when I played it again, 4 years ago, I was like, I definitely had those issues. But this time I'm like, okay, I have a better idea of where I need to go, what I need to do. But there were still points where I was like, okay, what's this section again? Far too many times I ended up in the pit of 100 trials when I didn't want to.
Yeah, I ended up in there at least 4 times.
I was about to say, that's your cue that you're lost.
What
you end up at
sucks
the
too
pit or
is
the 1,000-year door.
you can't even backtrack out of there, even with the ultra boots, which I tried doing. I tried to jump it back into the pipe, and it
I
won't
didn't
let
even
you.
think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of touched on this in the first episode that we recorded, and I like when I started doing the troubles and all the backtracking, and even I'm a huge fan of quality of life features that just minimize the amount of time I waste in a game, or I feel like I'm wasting. So if they were to ever remake this, I would be completely fine with them changing the design, even getting rid of those fast travel pipes and just letting us, maybe buy an item or a badge or something that lets you fast travel to every town or something.
Yeah.
Just on the spot, or even pay a little money. I don't care, but just. Yeah, I don't like the feeling that I'm wasting time backtracking when I don't have to necessarily.
Well,
So I think that's a good segue into the main point of chapter 7.
There was one
And,
thing I want to bring up really quick. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
You better be
Because
sorry.
I've been doing all the troubles, and so one of the troubles between these chapters takes you back to Glitzville, and I noticed what possibly might be a mistake in the game. And that is that Jolene and the mystery woman in the juice bar are active at the same time. So
I just assumed she was running back and forth.
maybe, yeah. It's just it seemed.
that's
Yeah.
I hear you. That's like an RPG thing, though. So yeah. But
I
get
do
it.
have to point out that Ash just got super meta in a chapter episode about backtracking. He just made us backtrack.
I know. Hey, nice.
Yeah.
So,
Totally on
so
purpose.
this is automatically Steve's least favorite episode right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, go for it, Derek.
Let's get to it, gentlemen.
Yeah, let's get to
I got a
chapter
lot
7.
to say.
So, the first part of chapter 7, you find out you have to go to Far Outpost, and you make your way to the to it. You have to go through this snowy section, and you finally get to the town of Bob-Ombs, and none of them want to talk about the cannon that's going to blast you all the way to the moon. And you don't quite know what's going on there. Eventually, you find out that, or figure out. In my case, I backtracked and then went forward when frankly gave me the extra piece of information that I forgot about, where they only want to talk to bombs. I'm like, crap! I know exactly what I missed.
And
So I backtracked
wow.
even more. But either way, you find out you need two bombs' help in order to actually activate the cannon and have it all work again. You need to go talk to Gold Bob, who's off in Poshley Heights.
Right.
And when you talk to him, he's like, "How much is this worth to you?" And you put out the money, and it's not a big a deal. It's pretty simple to get it to all go, and we'll get into the details of that once we done with this little recap. But then comes the real fun part of tracking down General White, the worst character in this game. I'm saving my thoughts. Either way, here's the process of getting White. White's currently in Petalburg, but when you go to find him, he's off in Keelhaul Key. You go to Keelhaul Key. By the way, you got to find a very specific NPC who tells you all these things in order to activate the next section. But you go to Keelhaul Key. He's not in Keelhaul Key. He went to Glitzville. You go to Glitzville. He's not in Glitzville. He went to Bogley Woods. He's not in Bogley Woods. He went to Twilight Town. You go to Twilight Town. All they say is he seemed tired. So you have to go back to Far Outpost where he's in bed, and it takes forever to wake that thing up.
They drive the point home, like they're just twisting the knife at that point. And also you have to infer that's where he went. They unlike all the other locations, they don't tell you. Right.
Yeah.
And you might associate, luckily I didn't this time, but we've seen him the entire game in the Koopa Town, whatever it's called. So some people might think, oh, that's his house, or go back there to where they remember him being.
The only indication that he went back to Far Outpost is if you used Goombella in his house and said, oh, this is General White's house.
This part sucks.
I hate this part. I hated it when I streamed it 4 years ago. Even though I know exactly where I needed to go outside of the.
Can you skip it? If you know what to do, can you skip? You have to check in with the NPCs, or
you have to go talk to the NPCs.
I had used Goombella. I knew it was his house. I went right back there.
Right.
And I was like, I have to follow this bastard's trail all the way through every environment I've been to. This is what happens when you don't check your game designers. Whoever designed this part sucks. General White sucks. If a bomb had a throat, I'd punch him right in it. Like I
think it's supposed to be, look at all the places you've been, look at all the progress you've made. I think that's the intention.
It's meant to be like a victory lap around the game.
It's not good.
No,
it's just annoying.
It doesn't feel. I mean, it's not a lap for one.
And that's true. And not only is it horrifically like boring and not fun to backtrack everywhere, but the way it ends, as you were saying, Andre, with all you get is, oh well, he's tired. Unless you used Goombella in that specific part, there's no way you're going to know what that means. And so this was one of the only times I actually just looked it up because I didn't have the patience. I was like, I just can't do this. And that, and I haven't really done that in the game so far. So that really speaks to just how badly designed this portion is.
Right. Yeah.
So I know, real quick before we do anything else, Ash, I know you like your troubles. There's a trouble where you got to do this again.
I did it. Unfortunately,
I
did it, and I hate myself for it. Yeah, there's a General White trouble where the same thing. You have to chase him throughout the world, and I hate my life for doing that.
And I think you get 30 coins.
I think it's 40 coins actually.
40 coins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw General White.
This is why I stopped doing troubles.
Again, you have to wake him up again too.
Oh my god.
Same way. It's so stupid. Yeah.
It really. Ending with that, if that had been at any of the point of the game, I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny, that's kind of cute. The fact it came after this tedious fetch quest basically was just the worst. It's like, why are you doing this to me?
Unskippable fetch quest,
right? Not even optional. Yep, a requirement. That part was not fun. So, all right, so we have our tuba bombs now, and
do we want to? Do we want to drive in? Like, how long did it take you guys to figure out he was in Petalburg? Did you remember that, Steve? That he was in Petalburg?
Nope. I went so many places. Like this portion alone, this portion of the game probably took me 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Just because I refused to look it up. I was like, this is what people would have gone through. Right. And I was pissed. I was so pissed. Because then they're like, oh, he went somewhere else. I'm like, what did you say to me? I gotta go somewhere else, you son of a bitch. And then I ended up, and I didn't use fast travel the first time.
Oh, really?
And so I ended up having to, I took the XS Express the first time through. Oh, no. I didn't realize you had to take the train for 3 more days. We've made a stop. I'm like, just go there. I
ran into that issue when I did it with Gold Bob, because I was like, oh, it's just a quick stop at the Riverside Station and then move on. It's like, oh no, you have to do it all again.
Why didn't you just take the fast travel buddy?
I didn't think
because
about
I knew.
It. Oh, sorry.
In my case, I knew Gold Bob was next to the train station, so I figured it would be quicker than having to go through the sewers again. And whatnot.
In my case, I got Poshley Heights and Glitzville mixed up. And so I was like, oh, I know one of them doesn't have a pipe. And so I was like, it's Poshley Heights. And so I was like, I got to get on the train. I was so angry at myself for making that stupid choice.
Azron says, Paper Mario, the 1,000-year backtrack. That is so true.
This really... 1,000-year backtrack.
This part does really exemplify the game's biggest issue. And it just really grinds you down here toward the end of the game. Like, we were riding high and then bam.
It is the worst part of the game.
I hope it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and say even following this, the game still sucks. For a good, I would say there's half of this chapter that really sucks and half that is really great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually.
I think that's a pretty
We
good
might be
assessment.
getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I don't.
I
Think
know.
you're wrong.
I'm setting us up. I'm trying to
Exactly.
segue us.
Nice, I appreciate
Real
that.
quick, did you guys run into any issue with Gold Bob? Because comparatively, Gold Bob isn't a big of a deal. Did you have did you go for
Nope.
all your coins right away, or did you offer 64? Because I went for all coins. Right
Okay,
away.
actually, I'm glad you brought this up. This part actually did annoy me too a little bit because after doing the whole thing on the train, where they warn you a bunch of times about reading the diary, I'm like, oh, after the first couple, I'm like, oh, they're serious about this. I better go do something. So I went off to go spend my coins somewhere, so I didn't waste them all, so I could offer them all. And but then I realized there's no freaking store in that town anyway. I'm like, screw it. I'll just give up. I only had like 65 coins, so it's not a huge loss. I'm like, I'll just eat the loss right now. Fine, have all my coins. And it's like, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm like, you bastard. I wish you just taken. I would have been less angry if you just taken my coins. But the fact that I almost wasted all my time to avoid that whole thing happening upset me even more. So that part rubbed me the wrong way.
That's
I mean,
interesting.
I got my money back from what's his name, Lumpy and Rogueport.
Yeah.
So I was sitting on like 500 coins. So I'm like, and I remembered this section, so I was like, yeah, take them, whatever.
Real quick, Lumpy's the guy you can invest in early into the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
you get that
invested
paid back.
I invested 300, and I got 900 coins back.
Nice.
So I bought my W emblem. And
Yeah,
I'm good
so-
on money.
Nice.
I ended up, fortunately, right next to Gold Bob, there's a save block.
That's what I was
And so
going to say.
I had
did
the
that
same
too.
fear as you, Andre. I was like, oh crap, he's going to take all my money.
Right.
And I was like, but I don't want to go anywhere. So I just saved. And then I was sitting on 460 something. And I was like, take it. And he kept warning me. And I was like, I know this is a bad choice. But then he takes it, and he takes it all. And I was like, damn, that stings. But I just want to keep going. Like, I'm so sick of this. And then he gives it all back. And I was like, oh man, that was... I ended up liking it a lot because I thought it was really clever that they did it. And I thought it was really smart of them to put him in a spot where there's a save block, because naturally you're going to want to, go back. So what my whole process was, initially I started out with offering them all. And then on like the third time, I was like, no, never mind. I'm good. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to offer him 1 coin because I'm a jerk. And he's like, you're undervaluing me. And then I offered him 64, and he's like, yeah, that's still not enough. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
So I
I
saved
did all
it.
the options.
Yeah, exactly. And then when he finally took them all, I was like, ugh, but at least I got what I need.
Right.
Now I just need to find this general white dude. I had no idea how bad that was going to be. But fortunately, he gave them all back. And I was like, oh, well played, Nintendo. You had me.
Yeah, like it was fun just discovering what he would say to every dialogue option because there was a save block there. So like you, Steve, I just saved, there would be no risk involved, and I could go shop if I needed to. But I want to say just in general that I love that this NPC family, like Gold Bob and his family, that you think you just meet randomly outside of Glitzville. I had completely forgotten how integral they become to the whole story.
I did
And
too.
not only in Chapter 6, but here in Chapter 7. And I think that's really cool, how these random NPCs, some of them become very important later on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice touch. It really is a nice touch. But
I mean, that.
and you can almost make the same claim about General White,
gonna say
because
that, right.
they plant him in
Yeah.
Plettelberg
The
right at
first
the
town.
beginning.
Yep.
You'll probably forget him by the time you get to this point. It would be clever. It's not.
I will
They
say,
kill it.
for as annoyed as I was during the wake up sequence, I did enjoy some of the dialogue when
Yeah.
it feels like, when at first it seems like
Yeah.
nothing's changing, but then they start playing with it. And my favorite, I wrote it down here, is after like 20 or 30 of these, the game's like, he woke, nah, still sleep. Try again.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
man.
part was the only one that got me to chuckle.
Yeah.
a
Did
little bit.
anyone
Right.
did anyone have any trouble with this? Like, did you know just to keep doing the dialogue tree
Yeah.
to get?
I had no idea, but I just kept jumping on him out of frustration. I was like,
Nice.
screw this guy. I'm going to hit him as many times as I can before they make me stop.
Mhm.
Man, there's a certain theme of violence going through all these episodes, Steve.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't blame him in this section. This
No, I
section
know.
deserves violence.
Well, speaking
But-
of
Yeah,
violence,
actually-
it climaxes with a weapon. This part of the
Yeah,
list.
exactly. So we finally get our 2 bombs. The cannon comes out. We got this sequence where this giant cannon comes out. All the bombs load up into it.
I love that, by the
and
way.
Mario gets launched to the moon. And that is a fun sequence, how it all is taken care
Well,
of.
what's really fun is how they kind of play with your expectations again. First off, you think the initial cannon is the one you've seen in town the
Right.
entire time, and
Yep.
it looks like a normal sized cannon. And that's not it. Instead, it's in the other area, and initially only a small like trap door opens, and it looks like an even wimpier cannon, almost like one from Mario 64. You'd expect to pop out. Yeah, I mean, I do like how they bring back the cannon idea from that game too, presumably. But then the entire plaza area just opens up. This giant, huge cannon pops out, and I love that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No.
Oh yeah, I love how when you think that it is the like the first cannon that you see, there's a Babam, like you talk to the Babam right in front of it, and he's like, "Cannon, no such thing is here. What are you talking about?" And it's literally right behind him.
Right.
And actually, before we move on to the moon, if in the first Babam village area, if you tattle on Fred the Babam in that area, he says Goombella says he's not very freaky for a Fred though. What? Not all Freds are freaky? News to me. It's just like. Right? Like
is that a reference to like something going on in there around that time? Some movie?
I think so, because I've heard the term Freaky Fred before. I can't remember exactly what it's in relation to, but I just thought that was so random.
That is weird.
Definitely is.
I love the build up during this part though, like how they made the cannon popping out into a major sequence. Like it feels impactful to the point where they have General White doing the whole like setup process in his little bunker control room area, and I just loved everything about this. You even see the first person perspective of him aiming the cannon again, like Mario 64 a little bit, getting the coordinates just right. It's just a really fun sequence, I think. Like it doesn't justify everything we had to go through to get there, but I am glad that it built up to something at least.
Yeah, this was the one bright spot in this half of the chapter for me. I really liked seeing the cannon. I did write down that I was a little disappointed that it didn't make the Mario 64 cannon raising noise. I was just expecting to hear that when the Babam cannon came out, but then like when it opens and you find out that to fire it, they just load hundreds of Babams inside it and detonate them. I was like, oh, that's way better. Like I wish they would have done that in Mario 64. So it has a leg up on that game in that way. I really thought that was a super clever way to rationalize that Babams are the ones that operate this cannon.
Where'd they all come from though? Were they all hanging out down in the bunker with the cannon too? The town's not that big.
Right? I know.
Don't break your brain thinking about this.
Yeah.
This is super weird. I looked up Freaky Fred, and it may very well be a reference to Courage the Cowardly Dog, of all things.
Oh, really? Wow.
I knew there was a character, but I didn't think it would be Courage the Cowardly Dog, so...
Yeah, I think because I can't find anything else other than a creepypasta, which I think is also related to the Courage character. So that's weird.
It's just this weird guy who shaves Fred. It shaves Courage while he's telling backstories of shaving other people. Yeah, I don't get it.
All right,
but all right. Anyway, we make it to the moon. We land on the moon and have to go across the surface of the moon, where walking is extremely slow. Thank you, gravity. But eventually, you find a pipe to get into the Exnoc fortress and have to explore through it, where we have to go deal with floor panel puzzles to get key cards and elevator keys, eventually make our way through the base, where we come to the main layer and end up finding Crump, but no Grotus and no Peach. They're both missing. And Crump even says they're gone at this point. And so you have a boss battle with Magnus Von Grapple version 2 and defeat Crump, and he's launched into space.
Okay.
Like Crump is gone. Probably, I don't even know if he's dead, but it's a fate worse than death if he's just flying through space for the rest of the time.
He's not coming back.
Yeah.
The surface of the moon.
It sucks.
Is like the biggest FU at the end of like an already FU filled half of this chapter. I did not get it the first time that you can just walk all the way around the dang moon.
Yeah. It's not conveyed at all through the design of the stage. And I went left first, which I think is the way longer way than just going right, I believe.
I went right.
How many screens did it take you guys?
And continued all the way. So I saw the base in the distance, and I was like, must just not be there yet. And kept going, not realizing that you had to use...
Bobbery,
thank you. That you had to use Bobbery to blow up rocks. Like, I didn't spot the warp pipe in the back near the base. And so I was just like, oh, it's off in the distance telling me like I'm definitely making my way.
Right.
Nope. I ended up right back at the beginning and I was like, oh, like I was so I was so angry at the moon because it's not like you guys said, it's not just that it's riddled with enemies and some of them are particularly really powerful
Fast.
defensively
And fast too.
but you're so slow. Like it takes so long to traverse those big open areas on the moon. So I ended up like the second lap figuring it out, but at that point I was low on HP. I was having to hide in craters to make sure I didn't get hit by any of the stronger enemies. And it was just driving me insane. And at that point, using Bobbery to blow up rocks and dodge like the ring laser things
bad combo
was driving me insane. Like I was so ready to be done by the time I got to the base. And then I was like, there's more of this chapter. Like I was legitimately angry when I got in the base. And when we get to the base, I'll talk more about it. But yeah, the surface of the moon just sucks.
Protoman says, I went right and it took like 3 screens, I believe. So going left, it's way more than 3 screens. It
wow, really?
sucks.
No, I think it's the same actually, because I went left. I went both ways, and someone else in the chat said it's equidistant.
Is it? Okay, is it equal distance? All right. Well, it felt like way more. It might be because I went right first and then left. Because I'm like, oh, there's probably more to the left there, not realizing it loops around.
Circles, yeah.
Because I tend to like go, when I know I'm supposed to go somewhere, I'll go explore. So I saw the pipe and the base, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep going to the right and see what I could find. And as I got back to the beginning screen, I remembered from my first playthrough that, yes, the moon is laid out like this, and damn it, and I have to go back. One other thing I want to say, Azran127 says, so yeah, the moon surface sucks. They thought they were adding it for the crater good, but they didn't understand the gravity of their design decisions.
And that kind of touches on
man.
What sucks is there was potential there, because I actually like the fact that you have a high jump, but you don't use it for anything. There's almost no point to jumping at all.
No.
And it could have really played up that, like Mario Odyssey did when it goes to the moon. Again, spoilers.
Right.
So yeah, it's just so tedious, and I ended up using Yoshi for a bunch of it. I don't know if you guys did. That at least,
I did.
Yeah, that at least makes it a little bit more bearable. Even though you have to hop off to use Bobbery to blow up the rocks. Yeah, the moon should have been fun. It should have been cool. Like it's like you're going to the moon. Why isn't it? That should be neat. And no, it's just really tedious.
So speaking of the moon, this is what I was talking about earlier. So there's actually a really cool bit of foreshadowing in Chapter 4. Where if you talk to a Twilight Town resident, he tells Mario that he had a dream of Mario going to the moon. He's like, that's weird, right? I just had a dream of you going to the moon. And that stood out to me because I thought I remembered maybe going to the moon later in the game, but I couldn't remember.
That's cool.
And so I made a note of it, and I'm like, yeah, you do actually go to the moon. And that's a really cool bit of foreshadowing that you would never know about unless you know it's coming.
Isn't the moon like front and center in that Chapter 2, like in the background?
It is, actually, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also, if you use Tattle on the first moon screen, Goombella talks about how she'd heard they put a Goomba on the moon in 69.
I heard that. Nice.
So good.
Well, speaking of Goombella, I guess, should we move on to the base portion of...
Yeah, and this is honestly a really good dungeon.
So real quick, sorry.
The rest of it, I think.
The reason I mentioned Goombella is because if you tattle with her in the first room, Goombella mentions, let's not think too much about the fact we're not needing helmets and breathing. And I think it was Protoman who mentioned earlier, it was weird that they were as accurate as they were with the gravity. I mean, accurate in quotes. Whereas, they just make fun of the fact that you don't have a helmet at all and didn't need one.
Yeah.
Even though Mario did use a helmet in Mario Land 2 when he went to the moon.
Yeah.
And
where's Paper Tatanga?
Yeah, right? Although to that point, I don't know if there's any basis in this, but it almost sounded like the moon-based music was based on one of the levels from Mario 2 when you're in space or on the moon. Is that just me or
Mario?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, Mario Land 2. Mario Land 2.
Oh, Mario Land 2.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the moon zone.
I didn't get there. Yeah, I didn't really hear any similarities between the two, but I do want to say, like, this is the main thing I wanted to say for this part. This song is a bop. Like,
the X-Not bass song is really good.
I completely forgot about it, and it's one of my favorite tracks in the game. Like Basola too. My wife came out and she's like, "Are you in some sort of like space disco? Like this is awesome." And I'm like, "I know, it's great."
I mean, it kind of is a disco with all those light up floors in some parts.
Yeah,
oh, man.
It's just a great final dungeon or almost final dungeon theme, I guess. It feels like a great climax to, the main part of the game, I guess.
Yeah, this dungeon saved this chapter for me. It would have easily been on the bottom of my rankings had this dungeon not been in it. I loved exploring this place. Like, I thought the puzzles on the floor were clever. I loved the fact that I was exploring areas that I'd been through as Peach, so I kind of had my bearings in certain spots. Like, I knew where Grotus's office was. I knew roughly where things were. Like, I went through rooms that I had been in as Peach, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. I did find one interesting thing that I could not explain. I used the super jump to get into an air vent, and I used paper mode to go through the grate, and I landed in the shower. And then I came out and I was 8-bit Mario with the 8-bit theme playing.
It was the changing room. Yeah.
Changing room.
Yeah. Oh, right. The changing room. But why? Like, it was cool.
It's an Easter egg.
It's actually a callback. Yeah, it's something that was also Paper Mario, which itself was based on Mario RPG, where you'd go through a curtain, he'd come out as 8-bit Mario, and then he'd go. Do you remember that? Yep. So it's.
Yeah, I've played Super Mario RPG. I've not played Paper Mario 64, so I didn't make that link. Yeah,
what's really fun though is
you can go through and have different partners with you and see them in 8-bit forms as well if you want to go through that.
Yep, I did that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
If you just bring up the menu, you can look at all their pixels.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
You went through it 8 times, Derek?
Yeah, I just wanted to see it.
Oh, I didn't. I just
okay.
didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I just used a menu. Yeah. I just swapped in there.
Oh, man. See, I went in, then I would leave the room. I don't know why I didn't think to just swap partners, but yeah, I actually went through 8 times just to see it. Like,
oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was having fun with it though. Like, I love almost everything about this dungeon.
Yeah, I did too.
Is that the 8-bit Mario sprite does reflect which badges you have equipped. So you can have like 8-bit Waluigi Mario, 8-bit Wario Mario, etc.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Yeah, it's a fun touch. In fact, I think this whole dungeon is, if you want to call it that, this whole base is made up of like fun little touches. Like they're doing, almost every room has like a different kind of challenge with a few exceptions. And I enjoyed it. Like, it's always something different. Like, even they had like a UFO catcher in one room, which is fitting for a space base with aliens, basically. They had the different like floor puzzles, including one that was almost like following a snake block from the 2D games. God, what else were there? There was other challenges too.
When we hit the floor, we had to look at the back wall.
Oh yeah, that was a fun, cute one. Yeah, use the environment
and then
to get through.
The return of the quiz game.
Yes.
Yep. Right, which was a nice touch.
I was down to the wire on that one.
I completely forgot that.
I made 2 mistakes. Yeah.
I only got one wrong. I decided not to go for the extra. I'm like, the enemies around here already give me enough experience. I don't need to go for more.
Mm-hmm.
So. Man, I got a perfect score. I got all 5 right. There was one that I almost got wrong, but I was fortunately able to get them all. I love this dungeon too. I think it's one of the best in the game. It definitely saves the chapter to a degree, of course. It doesn't really cover up the rest of the chapter, but it is a great ending to it. And there's one enemy in particular that, strangely enough, reminded me of PlayStation. Because if you tattle on the X Yucks, that I call the X Yucks, Goombella says, I hear this is read as Cross Yucks, not as X Yucks. And that reminds me of all the like crazy PlayStation fans who are like, no, it's the cross button, not the X button. And I'm like, what? Who calls it that? Like, what? So it's the Cross Yucks, apparently.
So I ran into an issue with that, with the X Yucks, Cross Yucks, whatever, where I was ready to kill it, and I was using multi-bounce to take out the mini X Cross Yucks, and it's like, oh crap, I need those back so I can have Goombella tattle on them, just to get that done. So I had Mario defend, and then so it could come back, and Goombella did her tattle, and it only had 1 HP left. And then Mario got hit by its attack, and he kept getting stunned. I could not kill this thing. It was it had me locked where he'd stunned me, and had me stunned for 2 turns. It constantly wore down my health. I almost ran out of FP, and eventually I said, screw it, I'm just running away, and I'll come back. And I just came in and just destroyed him in 2 turns. It's like he locked Mario into this unwinnable state where I could not attack him.
So it's a good thing, apparently, that you didn't lose the quiz game, because Jacob Tucker says, don't lose a quiz game. The X Yucks he summons, if you lose, are really hard.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I was wondering what happens if you do lose that one specifically, so that's good to know. But I did that. Yeah, I think the only way you really can get the tattle on the mini cross yucks is to do exactly what we did, Derek, is run away. Like do the tattle, run away, and then actually fight the battle properly.
Yeah. Because you can multi-bounce and take them out that way. It's not too hard to do, but I was power bouncing like crazy on basically every enemy here just because I wanted them dead as quick as possible.
I guess if you super guard, then maybe you won't get stunned, but clearly both of us failed that in this case. So, yeah.
Yeah, I never had any issues getting stunned by those guys. And I tried to kill just about everything I ran into just because it made traversing the hallways like a lot easier.
Right, I did too.
Just because they can hit you from such a long distance that I just chase them down and take them out and then go to all the rooms. Although, one thing that really annoyed me was at one point I had cleared out a whole hallway and I went into a room and I found like a teleporter and I was like, oh, this looks cool. This must be where I need to go. And I hit the button and then suddenly I'm back in friggin' Rogueport. and so all the enemies say what?
It can take you back early. I actually skipped the teleporter until you, I didn't realize. I'm so glad I skipped that.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch to go there. I did it too because it's like, oh yeah, what does this do? And it's like, oh right, we're back in Rogueport. It's like, I like that little touch. It's like that explains how they're getting back to the planet.
I did like that because then Goombella's like, oh, that explains how they're all getting here. Like they're not all just coming from the moon, you know? They're all coming under Rogueport.
And it kind of ticks off that box where like it's bothering you the whole game. Like what is behind that house? Like or behind that door underneath Rogueport, and you still never find out at the end of the game. And then of course the mystery resolves itself in that very cool way, I think.
But how did the teleporter get there in the first place?
Crump. I don't know.
I mean, we need a 1,000-Year Door sequel or a prequel to explain.
It resolves nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did enjoy the fact that it existed, but I was so upset because I just cleared out the floor and I was like, great, now I have to do this again.
That sucks.
I have to kill everyone again.
That happened to me too.
So yeah, I appreciate the teleporter is there, but I didn't find any, I never had to use it, except there was one point where I probably would have wanted to use it, but I couldn't figure out a way to, and maybe there is, I don't know. But I'm talking about the final room where you go through this massive platforming challenge, like involving the foreground and background. Yes, Steve?
No, this was just such a hard one for me.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, the platforming itself was easy peasy, but it was just, I had such a hard time figuring out what the hell I was supposed to do.
Right.
Like, because, I got the key card at the very end of it. But then I could not for the life of me figure out where I was supposed to go. And there's a pipe right next to you when you're done. So I'm like, oh, I'll go in there. And it sends you right back to the start. So I had to go all the way back through. And there's just a blue switch just hidden right off screen. Like no matter which way I went, it was never in frame. And out of frustration, I just walked back that way, assuming there was nothing. And I'm like, good Lord, there's a switch here. It's been here the whole time, and it makes stairs.
You have to go
to where you need to.
Yeah, you have to go take that pipe. At least that it's like in that enclosed area, and you don't think you can jump through to that.
It looks solid.
You can.
Yeah, that's the part that really sucks is because you can stand on those red girders too, or whatever they are, the piped girders. But yeah, the ones on the side you can just travel through, which doesn't make any sense visually. And I thought it was pretty poorly done. This whole room like frustrated me a bit, and what really sucked was right after is a boss fight, and I had my star power was reduced to nothing because I've been using I've been using either Sweet Treat to refill my hearts and stuff, or using the Showstopper, by the way, Showstopper I think. That move is awesome and maybe too awesome, but I just abuse the heck out of it, where most battles don't even matter anymore, but it also mitigates the entire combat system or undermines it, but that's all I end up using, but it's so good, why would you use anything else?
I've actually not used it yet.
Yeah, it's
I used
great.
it once and it sucked. I used
Really?
it once.
Oh man,
I wanted to see if I could get it against an Amazing Daisy in Chapter 4, and it didn't work against that or the Crazy Daisy with it. Did you
finish it perfectly? Did you fill?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. For me, it's worked great. It takes out most of the enemies most of the time. Whichever one's left, you can just finish off with the other partner usually, or at least start to. But yeah, so I had no star power going into the boss fight, and that was rough. Yeah, can you actually go back after this point? Can you retreat back into the base?
I think so.
I think so.
I mean,
I'm pretty
as long
sure
as you
you
don't
can,
go to, as long as you don't activate the crump part, I think you can go back.
No, but I mean, how do you go back then?
There's a pipe that takes you, the pipe that Steve was talking about that takes you back to the left.
Yeah, there's a pipe that took me to the left side of the room, but there's a higher pipe I couldn't figure out how to get to. Because you have there's the initial conveyor belt you're on, right? How do you get behind that gate?
I think if you fail any of the platforming segments in the background, you are taken back. You're taken to a pipe that resets you at the left in the foreground.
Yes, I believe that.
So you might have to go to the background.
I got reset. Every time I got reset, it was to a pipe already past the conveyor belt.
No, there's definitely.
I have to have it in front of me to really know.
I think if you just jump down a hole, like you can end up. But you also sacrifice 1 HP. So if you're on a razor's edge there,
oh,
then
maybe
you're
that's
doomed.
it. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So
I actually did like this room, though. Kind of in general, I like the design of it. I didn't really have any issues with it. I missed a couple of times, and that was frustrating. But I don't know. I actually kind of thought this was a nice, giant room puzzle before the end of the chapter. It kind of felt, I don't know, I liked it.
It was nice to have some platforming as well, because it took me at first I didn't realize I could go into the that girder area, but it's like on my second run through, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try because what I got to lose, and it worked. I was like, okay, perfect, and I was set to go from there. So I didn't mind it as much, and I didn't remember it that well. So
yeah, I didn't either. I like the idea of it more than the execution. I think it could have been refined a little bit more.
I agree with Andre. I think that there were spots where it wasn't super easy visually to spot where you are allowed to go. But I do love the idea. Like I think this was one of the best uses of kind of the interplay between the foreground and background yet in the game. Like I really love jumping across the gears. It was also one of the few parts of this game that felt more like a traditional Mario game. Like I thought it, had a really great platforming feel to it. And I would have liked it if it had some minor visual tweaks, but yeah, for the most part, it didn't give me too much grief, but all in all, like a nice little section right before the boss. I think it doesn't detract from the base in any meaningful way.
Well, speaking of actually right before the boss, one other slight annoyance for me at least is the fact, spoilers, I lost to the boss like 3 times, but I had 10 health.
He'll cream you.
Is the fact that the save block is only midway through the previous section, forcing me to repeat several parts of that increasingly annoying room, which was starting to get at me, starting to get to me. But I lost last night after like the second time. I'm like, screw it, I'm done. I can't bother with us today. So
this was your Cortez moment.
It was basically. I finished it this morning, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues with Crump. Like just like his previous incarnation, this one felt pretty easy. Like as long as I could focus on taking out, like it was just the encounter we had with him before, but powered up. And I ended up making short work of him as long as I made sure to keep his flying hands out of the way.
Right.
And I would use Vivian's fiery jinx for that, and Mario's multi bounce. And then whenever he didn't have hands out, I would use power bounce just to repeatedly wail on him, and he went down like really quick. I remember thinking like, oh man, he's pretty sturdy, and then he's like, oh, I can't be losing now, and I was like, oh, never mind, no he isn't.
Oh man, I'm envious. Yeah, because the attack I was using Bobbery to clear out, to do his screen clearing attack, basically to get rid of the fists, and that burned up all like most of my 10 FP I had. So it
cost 9, so yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think is it 9, 8 or 9? I think I have to reduce it.
9.
But yeah, so I'd have to recover that, and that cost Mario a move otherwise. So yeah, I was facing an uphill battle against this guy. Like 10 HP, 10 flower points. What I ended up doing was I ended up equipping as many badges as I could to recover health points from Mario. I had one that actually reduced the amount of damage he inflicts, so I could get a hard point back every turn. Then I did end up equipping, I kept the health at 10, but I did end up equipping another flower badge. It gave me 15 points, which turned out to be essential for this battle. Even though I was only starting the battle with 10 now, because I didn't go back to the heart block to refill it before doing so, but yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. Like that.
Yeah, hats off to you for doing that.
Did you not power up Vivian a second time? with the shine sprites, because Vivian should be able to take it out by herself with Fiery Jinx if she's powered up twice with the shine sprites.
I think I don't remember if I powered her up or not a second time. So
interesting. I've powered her up twice, and I don't think I was able to take out the hands by myself. But come to think of it, I don't think I ever used her before Mario, so maybe I was going overkill on the hands.
Yeah, I always used her first because she did I think 6 damage.
Yep. Yeah, she does. So I just assumed they had more HP than that.
Nope,
Yeah,
I only have 5.
Once, and I used Bob-omb Blast or whatever it is, Bobbery's best move.
Yeah.
That does 9 damage to everything. It's really good.
yeah, that's really nice.
I really do mainly use Bobbery, Goombella, and Vivian. The others don't really get used much anymore.
You know, it's funny. I started the game not really using Koops that often, but once you power up Koops twice, he's actually quite good because his Power Shell does like 5 damage to everything on the ground, as long as they don't have any defense. But I used Koops a lot to clear out weaker enemies really fast.
Yeah, but that doesn't help much during this battle though, because of
no, I didn't use him during. This mod.
There's a lot of enemies that have a lot of defense, especially those elite X-Nauts. Like again, power bouncing them just to get through.
He's not great for bosses for sure. I didn't have too much trouble with this. The main thing that I wrote down from this fight that it really stood out to me was Magnus von Grapple 2's really messed up audience attack. Like he literally sucked audience member, fires them at you, which is a cool visual effect, but it's really messed up when you think about it.
And it's also brutal, but it has the potential to kill my Mario in a single attack, and it comes out of nowhere. There's no foreshadowing. I'm like,
it took out my Vivian.
Yep.
Was not able to defend enough against that, so that was definitely rough. But that was in a part. But I had a live stream, so I was in good shape. I'll have to buy another one when I get prepared for the future.
Where do you buy them at?
Underground. I think there's one in the underground. Yeah, you can buy either that or in the west side.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look for that.
I think it's in the underground. I think you can buy super shrooms in the west side, and the underground is ultra shrooms. It's the same place where you can buy all the gold bars. I don't know why you would never do that. But...
Oh, right.
It's so you can have more than 900 coins.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Your max is 999, so you buy the gold bars, so you can store them and then sell them later, so you can have more money.
Gotcha.
That's their only purpose. But so I'm going to be loading up one. That good stuff for the final chapter, because otherwise, Crump we're done with Crump. At least he comes back. I'm not sure about that one, but I'm pretty sure Crump's gone.
We see him fly off into space. Yeah, like the mother alien from Aliens. Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he's gone. I hope he's gone for good.
Yeah.
So, how do we feel about this chapter overall then?
The first part really taints it, I gotta say. Like, I love the dungeon. It does a lot of things right, but by the time you reach that point, you're so just done with it.
I think, too, for as much as I did like the dungeon, I think it also kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. Like, when I reached the other elevator, I'm like, oh, there's 2 more floors to go through, really? Had it just been just the dungeon, or just the base, I probably would have been fine with it. But the fact it came after the tedious moon section, the tedious fetch quest, the tedious wake-up sequence, I'm like, this is too much.
I will say, like, the base itself didn't overstay its welcome for me, and part of that might have been just the fantastic music. I just loved it so much. But there is another part of this chapter I didn't like, aside from all the backtracking, and that is the fact that I usually love snow and ice levels in games. I always look forward to them. I always save them for the last in non-linear games because I look forward to that. I love those kinds of environments. Far Outpost and Bob-omb Village, there's nothing memorable about
Yep.
So it's like, as snow areas go, this is one of the worst.
Paper Mario 64 had a much better snow region.
Much better snow area. And so, that really disappointed.
I always ran along the south wall, so I didn't have to deal with the stupid piranha plants.
Yeah, that was another part, is you have to backtrack even through this chapter a few times, and that sucks too, because those enemies are annoying. Jacob Tucker says, this chapter, except for the bass's theme song, completely blows.
I will say I do like the bass itself, but I mean,
I like the bass,
basically everything about everything that's good about this chapter has to do with the X-Naut bass.
Yeah, every single other part of this chapter is not just unentertaining; it's actively bad.
Right.
It's definitely one of my least favorite chapters so far.
Yeah, Straw Hat Ninja says, I felt like the dungeon was a little too long. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like, I really liked it, but especially when you add everything else to it, could have been probably tightened up a little bit. Especially that final room before the boss, which I had to redo so many times. They kept losing.
Yeah,
that's rough. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective because, like, we weren't doing crazy hardcore badge point runs, so we didn't die. But that's really annoying. Like,
this final fight.
Yeah.
I'll be curious how Andre handles the final chapter.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
Yeah, we're getting into it now.
So, I was gonna say something else. Oh, I should mention, we already touched on it, but I do like even though it annoyed me in the moment, I do like whenever the bosses interact with the audience, so seeing that one more time in the game so far, 3 times now I think in total, was fun. I just love that, the kind of that interplay there, so... All right. Jesse M asks, have you gotten the max badge points yet, Andre? I haven't. I've been like perpetually underleveled, I think, through this game.
You might want to do a hit of 100 trials just so you can get some levels.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm cool. I might need to before the final boss. We'll see. But yeah, so how would you guys rank the chapters then? In total now, we've got 7 chapters under our belt. I'll give mine first, since I've got it up. So I would probably go, I think, in order from best to worst, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, 7. I think that's probably my least favorite chapter in the game. It has some cool moments, but just overall, it's a slog. I don't want to replay it ever.
This was definitely the part that I was looking forward to least revisiting because it's so mindless, and I hate it. So yeah, I'm with Jacob Tucker. 4, 6. 5, 3, 1, 2, 7. This is the worst chapter in my opinion. As much as I enjoy the base is really good, but it's not enough to make up for the rest.
I think for me, last time I was actually struggling between whether I like chapter 6 or 1 more, and I've come to a strong decision on that after thinking about it more. So for me, I'm standing at 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 7, 2. I still, even though I didn't love the fact that you're moving slowly on the moon, I like the visual element of it. I like how climactic it feels, and the X-Naught base. I love it as a dungeon, and that music goes so far for me. Like So I think 2 is still my least favorite, and 7's right in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm still sticking pretty close to Derek's opinion on this. I'm 4, 6, 5, 2, 1, 3, 7. 7. Just I didn't think 3 could be topped in terms of crappiness, but 7 proves that you can make a bad thing worse if you try hard enough.
Did you have that number memorized, Steve? By the way, the order, or did you have that written down?
I have it memorized.
Yeah,
I literally keep a tally.
That almost. It almost sounded like the passcode you have to use in this stage, which you have to remember for an unusually long time. I didn't write down, so it's like keeping a memory.
I have my notes here, so I'm just like putting that in the notes.
Yeah, see, I purposely tried to memorize it just because I was like, yeah, you know what, like I've got my notepad, but I'm gonna see if I end up having to backtrack by the time this comes up.
I respect your dedication to playing through this game, as most people did, back in the day.
Yeah, well, I feel like since it's my first time, I owe it to myself to try it that way. Mm-hmm. And if I, like Ash, if I have to go look it up, I consider that to be a pretty bad mark against the game. Like, if it gets to the point where without a guide, I can't figure it out from the environment, then I'm like, okay, they screwed up. Like, they messed up pretty bad here. And there's been a handful of those, but I would say this chapter, even though I didn't have a moment like that where I had to refer to something to figure out what to do, there was just so much crap before you get to the good part of this chapter that it just, I mean, I thought 3 was bad because there was no variety, but 7 is bad because it's just so much needless stuff thrown on top of you. Like this, it almost feels like they didn't know what to do. Like this is Paper Mario's version of like the Dragon Ball episode where Goku gets a driver's license. Like they're like, we don't know what we do, so we're gonna pad out the runtime of this thing. Yeah, right. At least Goku getting a license is funny, but yeah, this was just like they put us through our paces for no real reason. And then, like you said, Andre, I kind of did feel like, and it might just be a byproduct also of all the crap we had to do to get there. But once I'm in the base, I'm like, okay, I'm just ready to
right.
move on from this chapter. Like, I like this dungeon. It's not bad, but it also needs to be like way shorter just so I can.
Yeah.
At the point, you fatigued me so much that I just don't want to keep going.
The moon, I think had the moon been shorter, I wouldn't have minded the base's length. It's just, I like the idea that you can go around the moon, but you didn't need that at all. They don't communicate that well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ash?
Oh, there's no point in it.
Yeah, there's no point, exactly.
Right, like I would have been really happy if we got launched right into the X-Naut base. Like if they just shot us out of the cannon and we crashed through a window in the base, like I would have liked that a lot more.
Wait, I just realized too, why isn't gravity low inside the base itself either? That makes no sense.
It's like, you got the false gravity that you set up. They set up. It's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Jesse M says, my least favorite chapters are 5 and 1, and simply because they are too similar to the 64 game, so the others are at least more interesting aesthetically. And I would say too, to that point, I think 64 might have done those chapters better too. I think I'd have to go back and replay it to make sure. But yeah, I think there's a few chapters that are too similar in this game, and they're worse, and they might just be worse too. If not just because you're retreading similar terrain, so. All right, any final thoughts, everyone, on Chapter 7?
I hope Chapter 8's better.
There's one thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with Super Luigi, all the books, but there was one really funny line in Super Luigi 3 when it's talking about Luigi hearing the voice of Princess Eclair, and it goes, "The voice spoke of eternity, of stars in the heavens. It wept for those blind to love. It gave comfort in the face of fear and loneliness." And just that set against the backdrop of Luigi's just audaciously weird quest was.
I'm looking forward to that final book, and we actually we should get the conclusion of Luigi's whole thing, because he has all the compass. The last compass piece is with Eclair, so this should be the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's right. Actually, there was another NPC line that reminds me of this chapter now that I think about it, with all the backtracking. If you go back in the XS Express, there's a Toad lady who says, "Excitement then sadness. Travel is so much like love that way." You know?
Yeah.
Perfect representative of this chapter.
That was. I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it, so thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back soon with Chapter 8, as well as our post-mortem thoughts on the game, so stay tuned for all of that, and of course consider supporting us on Patreon to get early access to those final episodes, as well as the ability to watch them live, much as some people are doing right now, like Jesse and Protoman, the Break Room Arcade as well, and plenty of other people. You can interact with us during it. So you'll find a link to our Patreon in the description below. Check it out if you want that, plus other cool perks. And with that, we'll see you next week for Chapter 8 and our overall game thoughts. See you guys soon. Bye.